You gotta own it, you gotta fight for your right to belong here. Now I'm awoken, just this morning, a side of me open that I never noticed. We are the future, ride for the culture. Put my dirty clothes on the lines of a notebook. Never hide from exposure, show you nobody is unbroken.
Remember my name, you see my face, every breath that you take. Just when you think I was torn down in flames, I'm born again. All of my dark days are gone. You will remember. Yeah, you will remember. Yeah, you will remember. You will remember. Yeah.
I'm unstoppable, came too far to be barred by an obstacle. That's not an optional. What they call hard is like riding a bicycle. I'm phenomenal, feeling like I could do what a mythological guy could do. Power is optimal. It's my time to make impossible and the possible.
Remember my name, you see my face, every breath that you take. Just when you think I was torn down in flames, I'm born again. All of my dark days are gone. You will remember. You will remember. Yeah, you will remember. You will remember. Yeah. I'm born again. I'm born again. All of my dark days are gone. Remember my name, you see my face, every breath that you take. Just when you think I was torn down in flames, I'm born again. All of my dark days are gone. You will remember. You will remember. Yeah, you will remember. You will remember. Yeah.
Yeah, boy, call on God. Most these haters talk silly, really wearing bras. Forget you and your whole squad. If you gon' blast, never pause. Give me drums and make them hard. Yup, we on top. I know we run the city, but started with a block. I used to have a lady, now I have a lot. Our life is foot on the gas, YOLO, I can't stop. It's slowly up here at the top. We should be admired. We are everything that you're not. You sleep, we don't. You quit, we won't. We have nothing in common. We're rich, you're broke. You ain't never been this hot, your flow's regular. Brunch in Milan, our life is spectacular. Spit the that vernacular. And when we see you in the streets, we're at you. We want the whole world to see that it's our time. They can't do nothing with us, now they don't want it with us. I know they talk a lot, but they don't want it with us. See and you believe that it's our time. They can't do nothing with us, now they don't want it with us. I know they talk a lot, but they don't want it with us. Do we not give y'all the ghost with every line? Ain't Russell Crowe, but I got a beautiful mind. The insomnia makes for an impressive grind. Got a couple of chicks, call them my beautiful dimes. Okay, a couple of them is nines. There was an 8, it was late when we got drunk the one time. But still our game is refined. We out front jet, homie, you in your prime. Whenever we come back, the hood love us. They all know we the best, that's why they rock with us. We run the game, that's why they rock with us. And made the anthem, can't do nothing with us. Vegas, hit the strip all night. LA, so they can know what the red carpet like. Dip to Florida for the sunshine. Then took them overseas just to mess with their mind. It's our time. We want the whole world to see that it's our time. They don't want it with us, they can't do nothing with us. They don't want it with us. See and you believe that it's our time. Y'all don't want it with us, they don't want it with us. Yeah, they talk a lot, but they don't want it with us. Yeah, yeah, it's our time to grind, our time to shine. They don't want it with us. Yeah, yeah, our time to grind, our time to shine. Ha, ha, ha. They don't want it with us. We want the whole world to see that it's our time. It's our time. But they don't want it with us. See and you believe that it's our time. It's our time. But they don't want it with us.
Well, we are back in Texas. Hasn't been that long since we visited the Lone Star State. This time, we are on an oval, and we're getting really close to the end of this regular season. Playoffs are upcoming, and the tensions are immensely high. Welcome to tonight's Drop in the Hammer pre-race show in anticipation of race number 20 in the Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, as we bring you the coverage right here on the KBueno Racing Network. And as always, happy to be joined by Francisco Bacallao and Keelan Belsha for the pre-race show. I'm Kenneth Bueno, and Francisco, we've been harping on it for a little while now, ever since the All-Star break came about, and we moved on from there. It's getting really tight in the point standings. Playoffs are going to be the utmost concern for everyone in this field. And now we're at our final mile and a half before we enter the postseason for 2025. So maybe the real only shot for drivers to control their destiny as we get into the late portions tonight and then with the next race at Daytona.
Yeah, that's all that's left here is tonight here at the Texas Motor Speedway and the Daytona International Speedway next week. So if you don't want to leave your playoff opportunities or your regular season championship opportunities up for grabs, then tonight's the night where you make it happen. So for a lot of guys, this is the track they want to try and take care of whatever they can to get themselves in the best spot for Daytona. Others are going to try to leave it all there tonight and low-key try to bank on something going into Daytona and hoping that the chaos actually brings them some assistance. It works either way. It just depends on how the things all unfold. We don't know what's going to happen between now and the checkered flag.
And Keelan, it's almost crazy to believe that we've gone this far in the regular season. I almost feel like it hasn't been that long since we kicked off the campaign at Daytona, and all of a sudden we're going to be right back at the World Center of Racing on April 2nd, next Wednesday. But tonight's race at Texas, a big one, of course, being the intermediate track, then followed by the super speedway for the last dash into the postseason. If you're any one of those guys not with a win or with good points to your tally, what do you foresee in these final two as we get down to business?
It's going to be here again, Kenneth, Texas, my home track. Going to be a fun one tonight, but ever since this repave, there have been guys that haven't really been able to figure this track out. And it's been repaved for almost a decade now, and you still see it in the real life side of things. It's so much different than every other mile-and-a-half track that we have on this schedule, and it's one corner is completely different from the other, and it takes a good driver to figure it out. And we have seen good drivers be able to conquer at this racetrack in 4 wide in the past. So expect nothing less. We're going to have a good show tonight, and this is really your last chance to put yourself in a good position before we go into the chaos next week. That is Daytona.
That's a great point. I think everyone is consent in the moment that Daytona is going to be that wild card race. Tonight may be the last real chance for many drivers to figure out what situation they will be in and what situation they can create as they come out of tonight's race from the Texas Motor Speedway, where we just got around one of the toughest races of this last half of the regular season. That was in Dover, Delaware. The Monster Mile greeted the field, and everyone took the green flag. It was Jaden Porter and Gabriel Dahari, the two BBR Chevrolets, to lead us through. But Francisco, it wouldn't take long for Dahari to take control and for the former Dover winner to find some problems in turn 1.
Yeah, Jaden had some early troubles, but we'll see eventually how that did not derail him from the race he was having. And immediately early on, we were having another classic between Dahari and Brandon Hawken, who have made a name for themselves in this season. There you see trouble on the back straightaway for Nicholas Bauman, had a couple of incidents, and then right there gets finished off.
And he was involved in multiple incidents over the race. But then killing it turned to the storyline of these two on the screen. Gabriel Dahari, who had dominated most of the race, and Brandon Hawken always in pursuit. Didn't feel like there was a moment where these two were away from each other for quite long. Here was Hawken to the inside, trying the slide jaw move over and over and over again. And despite Dahari's best efforts at staying to the outside, Hawken, midway through the race, was finally able to get through. There was a caution with Mikey Neal getting turned around on the back straightaway, and then the fight just continued from there until this moment. Dahari getting into the lap car, Timothy Cook, sending him for a spin down the back straightaway, and Keelan, that just changed the entire complexion of the race.
Yeah, we saw Tristan Bailey and Lawson Peel, two guys who had a great run, get into it back there on the back stretch, and it left the door wide open for chaos on this last restart of the race. Brandon Hawken out to the race lead. He ended up pulling away and went on to get his 5th win of the season, which ties him with Colin Forster for 2nd on the all-times win list, and he has cemented himself as probably the favorite for the championship.
Already has 5 wins this season and basically matches the total that he outputted in the last 4-wide racing season, which happened to be his rookie campaign. So with this most recent win, he tops the playoff picture as we see it. He has the most playoff points with 16, I believe, going into tonight's race, so has the possibility to add on more as we move forward. But as we get into the postseason, Hawken the clear favorite, Maggio right behind him. Jaden Porter is near the area to clinch the regular season title tonight. We'll dive into that storyline later. He's got Lawson Peel right behind him, then Lance Hill, who needs top 30 in the points to have his win at Talladega Superspeedway lock him fully into the postseason. We look through 6th through 8th in Francisco. No real concern for the likes of Benson, Kelly, and Schaefer points-wise, because they have been doing well over the course of the year, and they've put themselves in a great spot to be safe for these last two. For everyone 9th on back, though, things get a little sketchy. Biggest highlight, though, Brandon Banks, who had been 15th for many weeks on end, finally gets over the hump, 13th now, giving that cut line position to Michael Newbraw, 16 points ahead of Austin Reedy.
Yeah, the playoff cut line is getting pretty tight as we get closer to Daytona. As of the most recent race at Dover, Kenneth, Kyle Benson officially mathematically locked in per Tyler Murray and the points playoff picture that he provides us with. And if nothing goes too awry for the likes of Curtis Kelly and Eric Schaefer, then they could most likely, and even Craig Lautenschlager, they could most likely lock themselves in after tonight's race. Mikey Neal and Nicholas Bauman, and you can even throw in Trevor Haley if they need good runs tonight, if they don't want to think about Daytona points-wise. And then Brandon Banks, AJ Green, Michael Newbraw, those people above the cut line, their goal is to basically stay above the cut line after tonight. If they can do anything to make Daytona as easy as possible, that's the goal. And you look at those first three out, Austin Reedy, Christopher Bishop, Tyler Murray, all three of them, Murray Reedy Motorsports drivers, Austin Reedy, Christopher Bishop, they could probably get in on points, especially with Daytona being next week. We've seen Murray Reedy Motorsports be good at those super speedways, but from the likes of Tyler Murray on back, Kenneth, it's most likely going to take a race win to get them into the playoffs.
Yeah, when you look further down from 19th on back, that's where you get into must-win territory. For these drivers, 16th through 18th, it's a little more bearable. They can set themselves up nicely for Daytona, but like we've heard about and like we've seen over the course of this last half of the regular season, it's more about creating a safety net for Daytona should the worst come about, and you have a bit of a points buffer to fall back on. Unfortunately for Reedy, Bishop, and for Murray, and those guys beneath that area of the point standings, they have to swing for the fences in these final two if they want to find themselves with a 15th or earlier playoff spot as we get down to the World Center of Racing. One name you don't see on this list is Gabriel Dehari, a one-time race winner at the Iowa Speedway. He hasn't made the minimal amounts of starts to get into the four-wide racing playoffs, but he's already impressed early on, and he's already had several run-ins with Brandon Hawken to create some fantastic racing over the last several weeks.
It's what he's done to make most of these passes. He's going to try to get to the right rear. Hawkins going to leave him the space off the corner, so he's actually going to try his best to roll the outside here on the 98. They'll be side by side for the position here. Hawkins just doesn't have the grip, almost makes contact.
He is not giving up, coming to the white flag in 3 and 4 this time.
He has just a few opportunities to make something happen. There's contact. There's contact back in Hawkins sideways. He hangs onto it.
He's up high, looking down low, but for the first time, it's Gabriel Dehari, debut race, and a race win.
Brandon did such a great job putting me under pressure. I was losing it mentally.
Do things change with Hawken? He's going to go
that's
down
a good
inside
run.
again. Battle for the top spot, lap 57 to turn 1.
That's as best of an angle he's had, but he doesn't clear the 72, runs him up the racetrack. The 72 might run out of grip here. He stays on the outside.
It has been the exact opposite today. It's been long green flag runs where he's had to make his way up front and then lose a spot on pit road as he takes the lead back over.
And he will match his season win total from his rookie campaign. Dover winner, Brandon Hawken, 5th win of the season.
And that was extremely tough, especially in the first 100 or so laps that took like, man, yeah, Gabriel was doing a great job defending, and
that was really fun. Brandon was definitely a lot more what's the word? Aggressive. He was definitely a lot more aggressive and trying to pull his sliders on me.
And the story wonderful, Francisco, between these two drivers, Dehari and Hawken. And although Dehari hasn't made that many starts in his four-wide career, it almost looks like he's mirroring a bit of what Brandon Hawken did last season. Not as dominant, but he's always a force to be reckoned with up front, and he provides a fast race car week in and week out. And from the 2 times we've seen them battle toe-to-toe, we've got race bangers. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, he's definitely provided us with some great action against Brandon Hawken, and honestly speaking, Kenneth, he might have to find himself a sponsor with how often he is at the front. You don't normally see unsponsored cars run at the front of the field like that, so somebody get your name or your brand on there on the 72. He's definitely going to give you some good reps, some good TV time, and I think if Season 8 rolls around and he runs the full schedule, he'll definitely be a strong contender for Rookie of the Year and definitely make a bid towards the championship.
Well, look, we've talked to Dehari about the fact that he doesn't run a paint scheme, and Keelan, for the most part, he just likes the fact that he doesn't have any sponsors. He enjoys the typical yellow and black look that doesn't have any logos on it, so I think it's just Dehari not wanting any sponsors to be on his car. And Steven Maggio even told us that he had to get, you know, a custom look at this paint scheme. He had to put banners on this car, so he had to try to find a way to get the default iRacing paint to slap some logos on it for the windshield banners and get it rolling on track.
Yeah, and you know, we talked to Gabriel after one of these races a couple races ago, and he showed us around his iRace, and literally every car that he owns is this yellow and black scheme he's got going on. So He's very committed to what he has going on, but him and Brandon Hawken, they have been racing so well together this season. I think we're going to get another one tonight as Hawken continues to try to make a bid for the championship. And he always talks about how much fun it is to race against guys like Dahari and Peel and all of them, so it's good to see everybody having a good time when they come out to race 4-wide.
And maybe tonight we could see the revival of that rivalry between Dahari and Hawken. A ton of respect between those two, but they race each other very hard and very clean whenever they are on track. So as Hawken tries to go 2 in a row from Fort Worth, Texas, Dahari could be the nearest driver to dethrone him. Maybe someone else as we look forward to it. While Dahari and Hawken have been two of the strongest drivers as of late, they are not in our 4-wide racing bracket challenge, which comes down to the final 4. Francisco, we're still in the midst of the Sweet 16 for the real-life March Madness tournament, but we're already getting to championship deciding time for this bracket challenge. Playoff points on the line for these 4 that are still eligible. Lance Hill, a Talladega race winner. He came in as the 32 seed from the wild card round way back in the campaign. He faces Kyle Benson tonight. Jaden Porter and Steven Maggio are going at it on the other side of the bracket, and this will decide the 2 that will make it on to the finale at Daytona on April 2nd. It's almost crazy, though, to think that 3 of them have race wins and they're locked into the playoffs. Benson is the only one trying to cling on to some of the hope to get some playoff points.
How about Lance Hill channeling his inner Florida Atlantic University, getting all the way to the Final 4? Kenneth, I know you appreciate that little tap in there, but it's a great effort from everybody to get to this point. Benson, Hill, they're going to put up a great fight once again here from the Texas Motor Speedway. They've had some good battles in the past, but the one to watch is definitely got to be those teammates of Steven Maggio and Jaden Porter. Only one of them can gain more playoff points towards their bid of trying to be the number 1 seed. Question is, which one of the 2 is it going to be? Also, I know you really enjoyed that reference.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Florida Atlantic as much just because they were not a First 4 team, but I love the reference there. I'm only hoping that FIU can get somehow to the tournament. They've only made one.
Well,
it was 1995.
It's going to be a while.
Yeah, it's going to be a while. I'm probably going to be in my 40s at some point. But nonetheless, a Cinderella story for Lance Hill. Going to try to get some more playoff points. Should possibly get him into the top 30 to lock him fully into the postseason. But we know Kyle Benson, who's the only driver in that group without a win. He's probably the hungriest out of the main group of drivers. Well, one of those that's already in that Final 4 bracket that you see on the top right of your screen is Steven Maggio, who joins us now on our Dropping the Hammer pre-race show. Steven, you got a copy with us?
Yes, sir.
All right, Steven. Well, we know the story of last week at Dover where the force feedback wasn't there. You had to shift with the keyboard. First of all, were you able to fix those issues? Is it much better tonight from Texas?
Yeah. Yep, we were able to fix it. We are all good to go again for this week.
All right, that is awesome stuff. And, Steven, I want to talk about this bracket challenge. I think we haven't really talked about it as much as maybe we should have over the course of the season, but you're now in this Final 4 round. You're joined by Jaden Porter, Kyle Benson, and Lance Hill, but you're going directly against your teammate in Porter. So what kind of mindset do you try to put in for tonight's race, knowing you're kind of going mano-a-mano with your teammate?
Yeah, like you said, we haven't really been putting too much focus on it, but I'm pretty much going to treat it as any other race. You know, if I win the race, then I'm going to beat him. So I'm still going to go for the win, and if not, if I get in a situation where, you know, maybe the best I can finish is 3rd or something, then I'll try to battle him for it. But goal here is still to win the race tonight.
And as you go into this one, you see Brandon Hawken take away win number 5 last week at Dover. And for you, with the wheel issues and such, things had certainly gone all out of place. What kind of mindset do you have as we roll into tonight's race specifically?
Got to tie him up, man. Got to even the score. I know I was the first to 4, and now he's the first to 5. So, yeah, we'll see if we can get it done tonight and tie him up again. And then I believe next week is the season finale, right, at Daytona. So, yeah, I guess anyone can win that one. And it's going to be an interesting finale for the bracket if I can advance tonight.
All right, Steven, well, we certainly appreciate the time, and I almost wanted to bring up one more thing before we let you go tonight, because we had a moment to meet with you over the weekend at the virtual Homestead, or the real Homestead Miami Speedway. You, Francisco, and I got the chance to meet during the Xfinity Series race on Saturday, and for all those wondering, this is what we all look like while we're in the stands, so I just wanted to shout out you. That was an awesome moment between us three, just hanging out at the Speedway.
Yeah, that was awesome. I really enjoyed meeting you guys. It was super fun, and I love the track. Really hoping they confirm that it's the championship race, and I'll probably be back next season.
Well, hopefully we're able to join you on that side if you're able to come back to the Speedway. Steven, thank you so much for the time, and best of luck as we head into tonight's race from Texas. Should be fun.
Yep, thank you guys. Have a good one.
So that is Steven Maggio, and I was concerned that we were going to see another sequential shifting with the keyboard effort again, but thankfully we are not. We are heading into some of the final minutes through qualifying, but before we get into the details here on the KBueno Racing Network for the race coverage, we'll take you through a KBRN moment in time from a 4-wide racing ARCA Series race here from Texas. Welcome to today's KBRN Moments in Time. This moment comes from 2021 and a tense 4-wide racing ARCA Series race from the Lone Star State. Pace car makes its way down its Lance Hill. Kyle Benson, your first row to the green flag from the Lone Star State for the second race of the playoffs. Texas was in the midst of a close fight en route to the Championship 5 round, where Joe Sanchez had locked himself in with a win the race before at Bristol. The start was filled with non-playoff contenders leading, but in the heart of the pack was playoff driver Kyle Benson, who found himself in a stack-up outside of turn 4 with the rest of the leading group to bring out the first yellow flag of the race. From there, the race stepped into a long green flag run led by Lawson Peel and teammate Sanchez, giving the 4-time winner some laps up front through strategy. Things changed quickly, however, and it ignited a lead battle between Tristan Bailey and Scott Healy for P1. Bailey's mistake mid-run in the outside wall would give Healy the lead before Ken MacArthur and Cody Kinsey got together off turn 4 to bring out the penultimate yellow of the race. As the field came down to turn 3, Healy sent it in on Joe Sanchez's rear bumper, sending the 55 for a spin and leaving Healy untouched out of turn 4 to capture the win from Texas Motor Speedway. Healy's win stood out as a highlight in the middle of the 4-wide racing ARCA Series playoffs as the Championship 5 battle continued through the postseason. And that's today's KBRN Moments in Time. Another great moment in time from the Texas Motor Speedway. That was on the old surface that we had then, so that was truly a lot of fun. We're getting down to the details. Final 2 races of this regular season. How about 4-wide racing Twitter giving us some bangers here? Prepping for the playoffs, guys, right now. Head in the water. We're ready to go.
Y'all do
Is
your
this an
morning
ostrich
routine this
reference?
morning?
Do
ain't
you
seen the
understand
videos?
the reference right here, Francisco?
I honestly don't.
Oh, no. Well,
goodness.
we got to give you the lore. We'll probably do that over the break. But thank you all for tuning in to our Drop in the Hammer pre-race show. On the other side of things, race number 20 from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway coming your way next.
I didn't understand the reference, and I had
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green. He's got the run, but isn't enough. It's a drag race to the finish. Holberg goes from third to first in the last quarter.
Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Down, 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 down. Yeah, glow up. Yeah, they still don't know. So what?
that's my bonus. For my quota, boy, don't nobody own. I just get a check. In the jail with the set, all we do is rap. Ain't worried about the next one. I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us, this right here with the too focused, all that change no focus. I am not no token, boy, don't nobody hold.
Round up the stakes for these final regular season races, and the answer becomes clear. Win the two-race showdown, and you'll keep on dancing. The field works its way back to the Lone Star State. We're live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. The KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to the penultimate race of the regular season for the 7th edition of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. And as always, we're happy to have you join us on the KBueno Racing Network, where alongside Francisco Bacallao and Keelan Belsha, I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll have Charlie Beyer join us from pit road in just several moments. Francisco, it's down to these two. There are no more options, no more races past this point to give yourself a shot if you're any one of these hopefuls looking for a playoff position. Tonight, the intermediate track right before we go to the high banks at Daytona. This one should be as tense as always.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tense race in the build-up towards the playoffs, and if you don't want to worry about Daytona, tonight's the night where you have to make it happen. So there's not a lot of room for error, not a lot of room for some mistakes, so make sure you get it all done right here, right now.
And Keelan, tonight being our final mile-and-a-half race before we go playoff racing, we have tonight's event and then the Super Speedway at Daytona. So for all of these drivers in the field, this race specifically, even disregarding all of the past races, is the only moment to decide your destiny, because Daytona, it goes all up in the air and it's all left to chance.
Just like you said it, Kenneth, this really our last opportunity to put together a good run and put yourself in a good position before Daytona. We know how chaotic Daytona was in September, so now when we come down, make it the regular season finale, where it's your last chance to have a chance at the playoffs at at the championship in Homestead, Miami in 2 months. I mean, you're just asking for chaos, and I think that's what we're going to get. We got tonight really your last opportunity to put yourself in a good position, like guys like Brandon Banks have done last week at Dover. If you're on that cut line tonight, you want your best run of the season tonight.
And as we get into things, Francisco, we go to our KBueno track map with images provided to us by Google Earth Texas. Ever since its revamp in 2017, has a lot of grip, but also has two different ends of the speedway drivers got to watch out for.
Two completely different turns is now the Texas Motor Speedway. Your main passing zone is probably going to be in the braking, going into turns 1 and 2. It's the real slow part of the racetrack. On these long runs, you're going to see guys go well down into the 130s or 140s in the center quarter speed, and you have to try and carry as much of that momentum through the very fast 3 and 4 to again set yourself up for the next time in 1 and 2. So if you can't get that pass done in 1 and 2, chances are you got to wait a whole nother lap before having another opportunity, and you can't mess up 3 and 4. You can definitely use multiple positions by missing the bottom.
And for one thing we've seen last season here at the new Texas Motor Speedway is that you can use the different grooves once the tires wear down. We saw many guys in the first 2 corners and even in 3 and 4 going to the middle or nearing up to the outside wall just to get a good bit of that good run off of the corner. So not only just the fuel strategy and tire strategy coming into play tonight, along with the playoff situation, we also have a track that is constantly changing in the Fort Worth, Texas sun in sim. It is a beautiful day to go racing on the track, and that means we'll take you trackside for tonight's starting grid for the 20th race in the Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series campaign, where it was an absolute brawl for the pole position, but it will go to Jaden Porter, the Louisville, Kentucky native, searching for his first career Texas Motor Speedway win. He'll lined up first with a 30.271. Steven Maggio will take the move on the outside. Fellow BBR teammate looking for his 5th win of the 2025 season. He'll be on the outside of row number 1. Back in row 2, you'll find playoff hopeful Austin Reedy jumps into this race 16 points below the playoff cut line, needs a boost tonight, with Kyle Benson already in the Final Four for the Big Bracket Challenge, trying to move on to the final championship round at Daytona next week. Trevor Haley for Dark Horse Motorsports, the first of their teammates inside the top 5, and Lawson Peel going to be outside in position number 6 with a 30.392, searching for his 3rd career Texas win. Brandon Banks with a top 10 last week staves off elimination from the playoff picture. He is 7th, with Craig Lounslager, a Texas native from the town of Euless. 30.409 puts the Murray Motorsports Ford Mustang in position number 8. Then Brandon Hawken, who led 121 laps here at Texas last season for the win, from the pole, starts tonight from 9th place, and North Carolina's Mikey Neal rounds out the top 10, Francisco.
11th goes to Eric Schaefer, who's trying to see if he can lock himself in on points after tonight's race, with Nicholas Baum, an all-star winner, trying to do something similar from the 12th position. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer once again after a career run last week at Dover, getting his first career top 5, with AJ Green trying to turn his luck around in the 14th position. 15th goes to cut-line driver Christopher Bishop, and another cut-line driver, his teammate, league owner Tyler Murray, in the 16th spot in his number 36. 17th goes to the 77 of Daniel Moore, with Kevin DeLee in the 53 and 18th spot. Cody Kinsey will be in his number 97, and 19th with Dusty Applin rounding out the top 20.
Back at the 21st position, we have Curtis Kelly in a good points position, trying to make a run to lock himself in this evening, with Brandon Gillis in the 9 car to his outside in 22nd. Back in row number 12, we have Iowa winner Gabriel Tahari and Tristan Bailey in the 35 to his outside. Good row back there. Tony Kivett in the 76 car starts in the 25th position, with Alexander Schumacher in the 26th spot. 27th goes to Michael Newbraw, just above the cut line, looking for a good day at a track that he has one career top 15 at, with Craig Parks to his outside in 28th. And back in the final row of the field, we have the 19 of Timothy Cook and Eric Stewart in the 82.
So that rounds out your full 30-car field here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. It's sort of a hot one here in Fort Worth as we look at it through the weather. Track temp at 127 degrees, 86 degrees Fahrenheit in the air. Wind's pretty strong to the southwest at about 12 miles an hour, but regardless, it is a gorgeous day to go racing as we cross the start-finish line. Well, Keelan, let's get into your keys to the race. What's it going to take to win tonight from Texas?
Well, you got to take it easy here, because this racetrack, you feel like you can get a lot more than you actually can, especially in that turn 1 and 2 side of the track. It is so wide from the apron up to the wall of the racetrack. You feel like you can get off these corners with a lot more power than you can. There's not as much banking to catch you on corner exit as you think, and it's really easy to get up there, up into the fence, and especially burn your tires off, so you got to take it easy. Be easy on that throttle as well. It kind of goes right in there with that. There's not as much room off the corner as you think there is. You got to really be easy off these corners so you don't burn your tires off and smack the wall. Expect long green flag runs. That is one thing that this racetrack, ever since its repave on iRacing, has really lended itself to. Long green flag runs and opportunities to save your tires and have speed towards the end of a long 30-lap run or so. If you're in a bad points place, don't be afraid to gamble. If you're a guy like Tyler Murray in 36th, who's 59 points back, or a guy in a must-win situation, don't be afraid to take a gamble. This is your last opportunity before we go into a wild card like Daytona. So guys who are deep in points, they have an opportunity to gamble and try to put themselves in the playoffs. And for more, down on pit road is Charlie Beyer.
And good evening from the pit lane, welcoming you back to the state of Texas at a different venue this time around for stop number 20 on the 4Wide TJ's team schedule. These drivers are ready to go and put together one final push towards the playoffs in the Lone Star State, a track with a lap record not broken since Tony Stewart back in 1998. As a childhood fan, I had to mention that one. For strategy tonight, 134 laps on a fairly new surface punctuated by 2 pit stops made up of 48 to 50 laps on each tank of fuel. Even after the repave almost a decade ago, still a bit of ways to go to nail this track down for a few drivers. Could make for some interesting tire strategy. I will be down on the pit lane bringing you all the updates as they unfold. For our penalty report, Tristan Bailey and Curtis Kelly both with end-of-line penalties to start us off, with Curtis coming into tonight on his best behavior, undertaking a strict penalty after last week's race at Dover and through the rest of the season. Winner's pick for me tonight. He's thrown strong outings through the course of the season, but he knows how to get it done. I actually made this pick before I saw the pre-race segment. including him, with an average running position of 5.5. That's ranked number 2 of all drivers in Season 7. Guys, give me Gabriel Dahari for KBueno Racing. He's clean, fast, and most prominently a winner at Iowa earlier this season, and one of the best closing battles we've had the privilege of watching so far. No qualifying for him put up tonight, so watch that 72 all the way back in 23rd, climb his way up to the front. Back to you, Kenneth.
Great stuff, Charlie Byer. Hopefully we'll be tossing you down for some information throughout this race, but good pick there with Dahari. Not a bad one considering what we saw last week at the Dover Motor Speedway. So for the second week in a row, it's a KBueno Racing front row lockout, this time with Jaden Porter and Steven Maggio on the inside and outside of the front row, and they'll take us green for the first time and for the first of 134 laps from Texas. Let's round it up and go green flag racing for the penultimate race of the regular season.
And already noticeable there on that initial start, Trevor Haley did not get a great launch. He probably missed a shift, and that allowed him to get taken to the outside of Kyle Benson. See some 3-wide action. That was Brandon Hawken all the way to the bottom of Brandon Banks and Craig Lautenschlager going into turn 3. They go right now. Lawson Peel getting himself in the top 5, trying to see if he can challenge Trevor Haley, but it's outside front row Steven Maggio who takes the race lead from the pole sitter after that tie for the top spot.
And Keelan, that is the second week in a row in which we see a BBR front row lockout and the outside driver on the front row taking the lead away from Jaden Porter on the first lap. Mirror image of what Gabriel Dahari did to control the first portion of that race last week at the Monster Mile. Now Benson looking in for second. He'll take away the spot easily from Porter, who seems to be lagging back. And I think it's the same point that we brought up at Dover last week, the fact that Porter may just be saving his Eagles as we start on for the first 2 laps. But as we look at through the field, seems like everyone all calm except for the first battle for 5th. Lawson Peel, Brandon Hawken through turn 2.
They're tucked in right behind Trevor Haley in that Red Bull car. 3 guys right here who are pretty good in points. Trevor Haley, though, he cannot afford to make a mistake this evening. He comes with a good bubble back to the cut line, but he needs a good run because that bubble can easily pop tonight and at Daytona, which is such a wild card race next week. He loses that position to Brandon Hawken, and Kyle Benson making a push for the race lead. He's the last guy remaining in a big bracket challenge without a race win. And he's going to take that Dude Wipes car to the top spot away from Steven Maggio.
And the man he has to beat, Lance Hill, who was not in this race tonight. So confirm it already. Book the ticket to the championship round in the bracket challenge. Kyle Benson, we'll see him there, given the fact that Lance Hill will not be able to challenge him for that spot. And meanwhile, Maggio loses the lead, and Brandon Hawken already takes a look to the inside. So the sluggish start for the Canadian and Hawken appears to be no more. And the 98 car surges up to second with a chance at the race lead coming out of turn 2.
The BBR drivers had a great start and had a good gap on the opening lap, but clearly since then they have been caught up by everybody else, probably going very conservative on this opening run. You see Hawken immediately go to the inside of Benson for the top spot. Benson's drifting up the racetrack, is able to hang on here on corner exit, and it's just important to remember, we talked about it just before the green flag, 127 degrees on that track temperature. A scorching hot racetrack. Tires are going to wear. The setup here is an extremely tight setup. So these guys are going to have to make sure they save their right front tire and make sure they keep it off the wall. And that could definitely lend itself to the 2-tire strategies made famous by the driver of the 51.
He's done a lot of good stuff by only slapping 2 Goodyear Eagles on his race car. And there's a look at the bracket challenge round that we're appearing right now. Steven Maggio on the right side of your screen, Jaden Porter on the left. And obviously they're separated by at least 2 car lengths as they head back to turn 1. Lawson Peel in the middle of this BBR sandwich, sitting in 4th. But maybe the most compelling big bracket challenge battle that we see between 2 drivers in different situations playoff-wise. Porter only accumulating 2 wins on the season versus Maggio's 4. While the rookie has been very prominent over his short 4-wide career, Porter the season 5 champion, trying to reestablish that dominance. And we'll take a look at that bracket challenge battle through the final 4 as we continue on through this race. Look at the battle for 8th place, Keelan Belsha. It is starting to heat up. There's the Texas native of Craig Lautenschlager on the outside, the South Carolinian of Brandon Banks, and how about DBR's Eric Schaefer looking 3 abreast. AJ Green is sideways off of turn 2, and he saves the race car. In the midst of that battle, he was about to join. He slides away from the track position, And the fight for 8th on back continues now to 7th.
It's been a brutal couple weeks for AJ Green in that 48. He couldn't find anything going after the first 20 laps last week, and he's back in a point spot where he has to have a good race. But who did have a good race last week was that 5-car, Brandon Banks, right in the midst of this battle. He was hovering in that 15th spot in points for the longest time, as long as I can remember, and seems like in 1 week he shot himself up to 34 points to the good. So it's been good going for Brandon Banks in that 5-car. He's really found his stride as this season progresses, and he's looking for another good run. Teammate Eric Schaefer tucked in right behind him. They sit just inside the top 10 in 9th and 10th as he tries to make a move back at Craig Lautenslager in the 13, who himself has had a good year. Everybody who's had a good year kind of keeping their car up front in the early going.
And really good stuff for Brandon with that 8th place finish at Dover, a race that he's won at before in another league and a similar competition with these next-gen cars. But the biggest point of notice, Francisco, was the fact that he did evade that 15th playoff picture spot, which, I mean, we were almost thinking he would not escape that part of the field just because he had been there for so long. But now, because of that good finish, it puts Michael Newbraw on bubble watch from 15th, and Austin Reedy, who comes into this one 16 points back.
And right now, Austin Reedy is battling the 97 of Cody Kinsey for the 23rd position, despite not taking a qualifying time for Austin Reedy. So he is struggling right now, or taking his time to go up through the field. Right, he cannot stay here for much longer. He has to eventually go up there into the top 10 and start making some kind of imprint on his competition. You see the 6th of Michael Newbraw down in 27th, but he's not too far behind Austin Reedy, so it's not too big of a gain on Newbraw if you're Reedy. But also Brandon Banks up there in the top 10 is going to play a wrench to both of those guys' strategy.
Yeah, as long as he stays as consistent as he is, which seems to pop up for Banks at the tail end of these rare seasons, especially through the playoffs, and we're going to get a lot of it. Caution flag out. Craig Lautenslager in trouble as he's on the inside of the racetrack. He was right in front of Banks before. The caution came out and appears the Euless driver in peril. And no damage to his Ford Mustang, but Keelan already a sour note to the 13's day. Yellow flag out at lap 13.
Yeah, you're going to have some work to do if you lose all your track position here. This is another track that feels a bit more difficult to pass at than the others as we get a replay of what happened. He was racing Eric Schaefer, and there's Gabriel DeHari with the 72. Don't know if he has anything to do with this or not. Looks like Lautenslager just kind of creeped down the racetrack as Schaefer was creeping up trying to side draft him, and they kind of get together right there. We've seen that story several times when we come to a mile-and-a-half racetrack this season. I think the most notable instance of it was at the All-Star race and All-Star Open earlier this season. Side drafting gone wrong. It is such an easy thing to do in these race cars, and looks like that may have been what happened right there.
So Lautenslager with the spin, Schaefer getting into him, and all of a sudden we're going to end our green flag run. 13 laps in the books as Brandon Hawken takes the race lead from Kyle Benson. Will command this race potentially in the same way that he did last season with the Xfinity Series cars, where he won this race from the pole. We'll turn it down to pit road and to Charlie Beyer. Charlie.
Not a huge dent into this fuel run so far, but drivers from 20th on back, starting with Austin Reedy and at number 34, they're going to come down to pit lane for service and try to set up possibly an inverse strategy coming into this run.
Good stuff, Charlie. We'll keep an eye on that as we move forward. Not sure if that alternate strategy will kick in as we see it, but maybe getting some fresh tires will work down the lane. One of those guys on pit road is Michael Newbraw. So, you know, Keelan, you were talking about in your keys to the race, if you are on that playoff bubble or if you're not in a good place in points, why not take the gamble? Do you like this call? 7.6 seconds for Newbraw, potentially just a splash of fuel on the way out.
It's what I like to do when I'm running that far back there and an early caution like this comes out. I mean, there's no harm in really just topping off the fuel tank, maybe getting 2 tires, but topping off that fuel tank especially, because if we get enough yellows to fall, that could eventually cut off a pit stop out of the strategy a little bit later, and it could benefit you towards the end of the race. And when you're already back there mired in 25th, just trying to find some track position, there's really no harm in trying it out. So, especially when you're on that bubble. I mean, there's a lot of pressure when you're in a league and you're right on the cut line coming towards the playoffs, and you feel that pressure, especially when you're trying to make a good name for your teammates and everybody, put yourself in a playoff and cement yourself in four-wide history. It's one of those that sometimes you got to take the gamble, and I think we'll see more of those as this race progresses.
And to kind of double down what you were saying there, Keelan, on the strategy front, I think it's a great move if you're in the back to come in and top off, but especially considering just how tight the setup is here tonight. You get a little bit more fuel into that car to free it up that much more, even without the tire set being used, and that could really help you out on long runs. Handling-wise, just feel a lot better, a lot more sure in the car, but also probably be able to make some moves and hang on to the bottom in 3 and 4 a lot more. That paint in 3 and 4 has so much grip in it compared to if you were somewhere else. If you have a little bit more fuel to free the car up and keep that rotation in as these runs continue to go longer and longer compared to the field without being behind on a tire set, that's a huge advantage.
And that's a great point to Michael Newbraw's strategy on pit road, because last season here at Texas, he finished 25th, and in that race, he was 12 points beneath the playoff cut line and this Texas race last season. So it's almost the same situation, deja vu for Newbraw, if you will. He wants to gain some of that track position. He'll try this time with the strategy, and he will restart exactly where he finished here last season in that 25th spot. So Brandon Hawkins takes the lead early. He will command the field back to the green flag. Kyle Benson made his name known early by stepping into the top 3 and taking away the race lead, leading some laps up front. But now he will have to react to what the 98 car does as we get into the Geico restart zone for a restart for the very first time. Struggle on the outside from Benson. Locks up Lawson Peel in the entryway to turn 1. Hawkins cleared away by at least 3 car lengths.
Side by side is going to be Maggio and Benson. Benson still struggling to try and get up to speed. Peel's going to be behind these two. You see, try to push the 38 of Benson out. He'll be side by side with Maggio going back to turn 3. Jaden Porter a little bit further back trying to hold off the 4 of Trevor Haley. And there's Jonathan Jurgensmeyer being aggressive, trying to see if he can move up even more.
We've seen a lot of great stuff from Jurgensmeyer as of late, from Coda to Dover last week, and now tonight from Texas, but he is under heavy fire. Trevor Haley nearly getting him sideways there off turn 4. Tyler Murray nearly gave him a shot there as we were coming to the start-finish line. And look at the yellow and black Chevrolet hounding in the background. Gabriel Dahari, who started 23rd in this race, did not put a qualifying time down. But like Charlie Byers said, Keelan, he's got a lot of confidence in what Dahari can do tonight, given his pace in his short 4-wide career, and already from 23rd to 8th now on the starting grid as we go to 17.
72's got a lot of speed. He has showed that in every performance he's had to this point in 4 wide, so no reason to believe he wouldn't have a shot this evening as he continues to make pace and climb through the field. Kevin Leah back there in a 53 car, battle in front of him, Dusty Applin, and I believe that's Alexander Schumacher. 2 rookies going at it just outside the top 10.
Look under more from our Charlie Byer photography onboard camera. Good battle between these 2 Ford Mustangs. And the first time we see Alexander Schumacher in the field, I believe, since Coda, when he made his first start not that long ago. Had a lot of strategy going on in that race, and there's Dusty Applin on the way through. Meanwhile, battle for second, continuously fiery. Steven Maggio had a look underneath Kyle Benson. Francisco for a split second, had to back out, and the tertiary car of Lawson Peel sitting in the background. This one really fun to watch, right behind the race leader.
Yeah, Maggio got to the inside in turn 1 on the last time, and he's going to try to do it again here. Goes to the inside of Benson, and around this point in the corner, he got a little bit tight. You see him right there, just drift up a little bit, has to get out of it. That gives Benson a good advantage down the straightaway to try and get clear. You see, he doesn't get clear immediately. Maggio would try to side draft. Peel kind of gives him a little bit of help. That'll keep them side by side in 3, but Benson last season was one of the first of trying to make the outside work on this end of the racetrack and was able to make some good passes doing it, but right now, holding steady with Maggio. Maggio, if he wants to get this pass done, it's got to be on this end of the racetrack.
He's got to try it in 1 and 2. This is the place of the speedway where we got to slow down a little more because of the tighter radius and the lower banking. When they reconfigured this Texas Motor Speedway back in 2017, what used to be 24 degrees all around in the banking for the corners turned into 20 degrees in 1 and 2, and then 24 degrees remaining in 3 and 4. So you have to handle both ends of the speedway very differently. And that turns us to our points about the setup, to what Francisco mentioned, how tight this setup is. Tyler Murray, who sets up the race sessions for the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, usually holds a practice session for the field to be held on Tuesday nights, the week of the race. As he had the race setup going on, he ended up putting the wrong setup, and what instead he did was put in the setup for the old Texas Motor Speedway, the old setup from the 2008 iRacing scan of this track. I believe he has put the same old Texas setup in tonight's race, so the drivers in this field are not driving the setup built for this newly revamped Texas Speedway. They're driving on what would be the setup for the old surface of the racetrack. So not only do you have challenges and strategy with this race car, but you have to have a challenge of handling this car not fully set up for this type of track.
Make it very difficult on these guys, especially with the hot track temperature. The conditions are not in your favor, and when the setup and the conditions aren't in your favor, it's good. It's going to be a handful of a race for a lot of guys, but that should let us get some good racing up front with some of the best drivers in the series as these guys racing hard, Maggio getting clear, and we start to see the field start to spread out among the top 5 or so. So we're starting to get some gaps with everybody. You see Juergensmeyer and Trevor Haley just inside the top 10 racing each other. Haley may have an opportunity to make a move on the other end of the racetrack.
And looking at the right side of the screen, that's where you find troubles early for Kevin D'Elia and Eric Schaefer. You saw a moment ago on the right side of your screen, D'Elia going for a self-spin off the second corner, and he was able to mostly gather his Chevrolet up, but at the cost of every spot on the racetrack, he is dead last in 29th. And Schaefer, the aforementioned car that was involved in the incident with Craig Launslager down the back straightaway entering turn 3. That's where he found trouble, and so they're basically mired at the back of the field trying their best to cling on to whatever track position they can hold on to and think about what they may be able to gain as we move forward. There is Jaden Porter sliding into 4th. Him and Kyle Benson have been going at it for the last several laps since Lawson Peel moved on by. And there comes Gabriel Dahari, Francisco, still on the move from 23rd now to 6th place, a 17-spot gain since the drop of the green flag.
Yeah, just continuing to pick them up and put them down as every green flag lap goes by. Just able to work his way around this racetrack effectively and efficiently. And if he's able to make this pass on Kyle Benson, then that'll put himself up into the top 5. And see right there, just no forward momentum going into turn 1 right now, so he might not be able to make the pass on this particular lap, but you can already see him trying to plan it for the next one. He'll get right up to the back bumper of the 38, try to get him loose. He's peeking to the inside, and look how close he gets to the flat part of the racetrack. He gets side by side, and now he's going to try to side draft Benson to stay on his inside here for turns 3 and 4 and try to out-drag him going into turn 1.
And Dahari may have that spot complete. Benson gives it away through the fast 3 and 4. That was a look at the Charlie Meyer photography onboard camera. Good shot from Jaden Porter's Chevrolet as he weaves in to 4th, now looking for 3rd.
Oh.
And through the last 4 races, 3 of them have been top 3 finishes. The win coming the way of Pocono, then a 2nd place at Nashville, and another P2 effort at Dover Motor Speedway, a track that he's been very successful at over the last several seasons. So Keelan, lots of great stuff for Porter here, trying to clinch the regular season title tonight.
A good run should do it as long as he doesn't get outscored big time by the drivers he is racing. As we see Stephen Maggio, he had a bit of a moment coming off turn 4 this last lap around. Right there. I mean, hot track temp and a setup that's not meant for this racetrack. That's a good save, though, as he kind of opened the door for Lawson Peel to move into the 2nd position. As 51 loses 1 spot there, but I'm telling you, the conditions in the setup are not in your favor. And when you see a guy like Stephen Maggio making a slight mistake like that, he did a good job not wrecking a race car, especially going through the grass. But you know these drivers have a handful on the track.
And specifically in 3 and 4, Francisco, that's where the troubles arise because, you know, even on the old surface, we saw how much of a danger zone that became for drivers in this series and in the 4-Wide Racing ARCA campaign, which we got a good look at it from our KBueno moment in time. When the lead switched between Tristan Bailey and Scott Healy, Bailey had hit the outside wall hard because the car just understeered and would not rotate through the corner. And through this revamp of Texas, you have a very gripped up 3 and 4 area that is nearly full throttle. And at this track temperature, those rear tires will start to scream for grip. And more often than not, you won't see drivers going up into the wall, but sliding out with the rear car, trying to go around for a spin.
Absolutely right about that, Kenneth. And that's also the same end of the racetrack that Jimmy Johnson thwarted Brad Keselowski's 300-lap-led performance here back in 2015, which is a great nod to Jimmy Johnson there that you'd appreciate. But 3 and 4 with this new surface is just as difficult because, yes, it is fast. It is mostly one lane. But that's the difficult part is if you get out of that lane, you lose a lot of grip. And looks like Maggio, even after that one slide, you could just see him struggling to really keep the same kind of pace in this race car at this point in the run here after 30 or so laps, because now Porter is to his inside. He misses the bottom there, drifts up the racetrack. That could invite Dahari to try and make a move on him in a couple of corners here, and that's really the game with Texas. If you miss a line and somebody's right behind you, they're going to pounce on you on any chance they get. So you have to be careful when you play offense, because if someone's behind you, you're quickly turning offense into defense instead of the other way around, which is the preferred method.
And now Maggio, who was playing offense on the race leader and Lawson Peel, now has to look back at his teammates and try to defend against them. This is, by the way, for the Bracket Challenge Final Four spot into the finale at Daytona. So it's head-to-head between Porter and Maggio. Porter getting a little loose there out of turn 2, but keeps his spot. Dahari will help out the 51 down on the back straightaway, entering turn 3. Down to pit road and to Charlie Beyer.
In our first retirement of the race is Kevin D'Elia, who is running outside of the top 20 for most of this current run. Got a nose into the outside wall, brought it down pit road, and has disconnected from the session. So Kevin D'Elia will round out the field on 29th.
Unfortunate there for D'Elia, who has not found as much success as of late through his recent 4-wide career. We'll keep tabs on other DNFs that happen down the lane through 34 laps. It's a very early portion of this race, but with the only yellow we have tonight not prompting the field to come down pit road, Keelan Belsha. And now is the point of the run where the cars are going to be as ill handling as ever. The hot track temp won't necessarily help them out, and in the midst of the run where things are single filing out, these cars are handling really tough, and for the drivers, they got to be very, very wary of what they can do with this race car and how far they can push it before it gets to a breaking point, before we see strategy kick in.
I mean, I have heard throughout this pre-race show and throughout the portion of the race we've been through, I've heard nothing encouraging about how this car drives on this racetrack. I mean, we were talking about how it's pushing tight earlier, and when it's pushing tight on worn tires, that's probably the worst thing to drive ever, because you can't touch the throttle. And then when they do touch the throttle, we've seen cars slipping and sliding off the corner. So it's just a handful of a race, and these guys are going to be so happy when they get to come down pit road and 10, 15 laps and put some new boots on it and get back out there, because these guys, I assure you, there's not too many enjoying this right now, unless you're maybe Brandon Hawken leading the race or Gabriel Dahari climbing your way through the field.
Back to Charlie on pit road.
And not too long after Kevin D'Elia's retirement, Brandon Gillis has also pulled down pit road and disconnected from the session. No noticeable damage on that number 9, but it was still running outside the top 25. So those are your two cars rounding out the field tonight.
Unfortunate there for Gillis, the Rayford, North Carolina native, who has been in every single edition of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, dating back to Season 1 from 2020. And one of the OGs already out of this race, 37 laps in the books. You were watching a battle further back inside the top 16. That was Curtis Kelly playing a bit of defense on Cody Kinsey. They were nearly 3 wide, and now Dusty Applin has to worry about Christopher Bishop from 17th and 18th place. And like Charlie Beyer said earlier on in our pre-race hit, Francisco, Kelly has to be extremely aware of what he does with others around him on the racetrack. He was docked for a second intentional wreck penalty after last week at Dover Motor Speedway. He got into a big crash entering the first corner early in the race. Race officials saw that crash and deemed it intentional on the Canadians' part. So Kelly now has to watch for any incidents that he may be a cause of, because if he does get caught with another intentional wreck from here on out, he will be parked for the rest of the season, and as of right now, on probation for the rest of the campaign.
Yeah, Curtis Kelly has basically been put on a tight leash here between now and the Homestead Miami Speedway, so he has to watch everything he does, everything he decides to do on the racetrack. If something doesn't go his way, he can't go out there and immediately retaliate against somebody, even if he wants to, as much as he desires. As you see 3 wide there, going into turn 3, very tight quarters. Applin gets into his door, but Curtis Kelly, Kenneth, has been involved in a lot of incidents the last couple of weeks, and Murray decided it was time to hand him the penalty he felt was needed to get this under control. And for Curtis Kelly, not just the fact that he's on probation the rest of the season and he's at that risk, but anything that inquires a penalty point, something as simple as causing a caution, if he gets any penalty points, they're worth doubles. You see the contact a little bit further back between, I believe, that is Tyler Murray and the 14 of Bauman getting into the outside wall. They're going to lose a couple of positions there, and there's Michael Newbraw ready to pick up the pieces. And speaking of Michael Newbraw, Kenneth, his rival, one of his rivals, as we get the replay there of the contact, one of his rivals, Austin Reedy, has driven his way up into the 7th position. He pitted on the last constant for a little bit of fuel, 2.5 seconds at stop. So with a little bit more fuel in the tank and a little bit freer of a race car, he has clearly been able to drive his way up into the top 10, running in 7th, running good lap times, and could probably go at least another 5 or so laps than the rest of the leaders by the time the pit stops arrive.
Good call for Reedy, who the last time we saw him on the racetrack finished 4th at the Virtual Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas, the other Lone Star State race that we had this season on the KBueno Racing Network. And Reedy needs this run. 16 points beneath that cut line spot, so he really does require a solid run. Not sure if Kyle Benson will help him out in this case. I believe he will. We'll just let him through for 6th place as we get through turns 3 and 4. Things seem to be going crazy on the strategy side of things as we enter our longest green flag run of the night. Charlie, what do you have?
And as we embark past lap number 40, we're approaching within 10 laps to our pit cycle. Tyler B. Murray is the first car to step down on the pit road, back down in 27. So it's going to be time to stop 1 of 2 minimum to get these guys to the end of this race.
And there he is coming out of pit road. So after the bit of squirreliness in the middle of 3 wide and nearly putting Bauman into the outside wall off turn 2, Murray decides this is his moment to enter pit road and to try to make some kind of move. And now we got to watch for what the leaders do at this juncture of the race. The only other big pass on the racetrack was Lawson Peel giving away 3rd place to Jaden Porter. And I think Keelan might have had a hit to the outside wall there from the last lap.
Might have a little bit of possible damage on the right side of that race car and kind of dropping in track position right now. Was running up there in a 2nd position, kind of running down Brandon Hawkin. I saw the interval get down to 1 second, and now he slips back to the 4th position in between those BBR teammates right there as we come closer to the pit cycle. I wonder who's going to make the move first out of this group in the top 5.
Well, Francisco, now if you're anyone in the back end of this field, what are you thinking? Because we saw Newbraw make that move a little bit earlier on in this race to come down pit road for a splash of gas through the first yellow. But for all of these other guys, you think of a guy like Curtis Kelly and AJ Green, Trevor Haley, many drivers that have sort of stifled and plateaued over the course of this long green flag run through lap 46. When are you considering coming down pit road? Are you thinking Tyler Murray is the benchmark right now?
Not likely due to how far back in the field he was. You see Maggio with a big loose effort there off of turn 2. Loses 2 spots to Reedy and Peel. And speaking of Reedy, there he is now up into 4th all of a sudden. So a good long run here by Austin Reedy. He's put himself up in contention at the front as Lawson Peel's kind of fallen back in the latter portions of this run. But Kenneth, this early in the race, I think you have to take it as long as the fuel will take you. Just looking at between now and the checkered flag, we'll have just under 90 laps to go. So everybody's going to have to stop at least another time after this, no matter what. So I think it's just about what do you want to wait and stay on the racetrack in case a caution comes out, or are you trying to bank on some other kind of strategy? Because if the yellow comes out and you're still on the racetrack, that could be a huge advantage, like we saw at the Charlotte Motor Speedway earlier in the season.
It's a great point. And, you know, when we're in our long green flag run, it's almost similar to what we saw last season where things had gone green for so long and everyone had to think about when was their right moments and how they were going to try to stop Brandon Hawkin, who through his 10 career 4-wide wins, not only does it put him 2nd on the all-time wins list, tied with Jacksonville, Florida native Colin Forrester, it puts him in a very different side of things on the elite company, because Brandon Hawkin, through his 10 career wins, 8 of them have come from starting on the pole. That's 80% of his career 4-wide wins have come from starting on the top spot. So really cool that Hawkin has been able to achieve that feat. Meanwhile, drivers in the top 5 are on pit road. And Charlie Byer, I'd imagine these are the big hitters here. Steven Maggio and Lawson Peel on their way in through lap 49.
These are the big hitters. These are drivers that are up front and are going to stay up front throughout the majority of this race. That's the number 12 and that's the number 51. Going to kick things off. The first 2 cars in, looking at about most likely 4. Yeah, it looks like 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, and they'll get out on the racetrack first.
Whoa, and there's trouble down the front straightaway. That is Eric Stewart with his hood all the way up. The car is destroyed, and he nearly got into Steven Maggio. They're exiting pit road.
Wow, that's a close situation there, and he's going to tow it immediately. So he's out of out of this one in that situation. We'll try and get a replay, see exactly what happened to Eric Stewart. There you see off of turn 4, looks like he gets loose and it overcorrects and he slams into the outside wall right on that curve of the quad oval. Huge damage, and luckily no caution, and luckily not to hit anybody as he was coming back up the track there again.
And Steven Maggio having a brown pants moment, Keelan. He nearly saw Stewart get into him right there off of turn 4 and entering turn 1. That was very scary for Maggio. He thankfully escapes it, but watch the battle for the lead has crunched down. Dahari is hunting down Brandon Hawken, but we are entering green flag pit stop strategy, so this could be a pivotal shot at the race lead. Dahari slides to the grass, inside look for the top spot, back to turn 1.
There was a huge wiggle out of the 98 and 3 and 4 there. We saw it kind of perfect on the onboard camera that we were on right there. He wiggled, and that opened up the door for Dahari. So ill handling for all of them on the track right now. Craig Lautenslager on pit road, AJ Green, Brandon Banks, a lot of guys who have been running top 10. Everybody's starting to hit pit road and cycle out, but these top 2 still racing for the lead. There goes Brandon Hawken. He's going to peel off onto pit road.
He's coming in this time by lap 52, so we'll give Austin Reedy and Jaden Porter second and third. And for the first time tonight, we have a lead change from Texas. Gabriel Dahari takes his Chevrolet to the top spot, makes the pass right before Hawken comes down to pit lane. To Charlie.
We'll say goodbye to that battle for the race lead for now as the number 98 pulls in, gets 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. With Gabriel Dahari going to make his decision running turns 3 and 4 now. So it's not the last time we're going to see these two guys battle. It's just a matter of what the tire difference is going to be. But based on this, here comes Gabriel Dahari. Going to just be a 1-lap difference to decide later in this run, as they will most likely meet each other again on the racetrack.
And Jaden Porter is right behind him. So both of the KBueno Racing Chevrolets will enter pit lane. That leaves Austin Reedy as the lone man out. He was in his box for 2.5 seconds as he came down pit road 54 laps ago. Now that was basically right at the cusp, or basically he had just been down pit road, possibly under that yellow flag situation. But as we see it, he'll come in pit road this time. Mikey Neal will assume second place. And the man who's been in the top 10 for most of the playoff picture through the late end of this regular season, Wake Forest North Carolinian, will find himself in as well. So at this point, everyone will try to find their way on pit road. Cody Kinsey will assume the race lead. And in the battle for the net P1 spot, we'll look at Hawken and Dahari, their fight off of turn 2.
There's Hawken, he's got it.
Now, Keelan, is that concerning for Dahari? I mean, we saw how much he was able to catch up to Hawken over the course of the long green flag stint. Didn't seem like that big of an issue as the tires got worse.
Well, I think he's going to have a slight advantage. I always like the opportunity of being able to pit right before the other guy and just get that out lap and kind of get up there. And I think that's what Hawken took advantage of there. And you saw Hawken's handling. It was really going towards the tail end of that run, so I think he made the right decision to come in a little bit earlier, and one green flag lap isn't going to separate him that much, but that should turn over the P1 position to Lawson Peel, and second place to Steven Maggio. They did hit pit road before those top guys. Charlie.
As Keelan mentioned, the short pitting strategy in favor for the time being for Lawson Peel and Steven Maggio, but 5 drivers still yet to go onto the pit road. Those are the 5 drivers that pitted under the first yellow flag, so eventually they're going to cycle, and Lawson Peel will turn your race leader.
Thank you, Charlie. That's a 4-lap difference, by the way, between Peel, Maggio, and then those who just came down pit road now, as Peel and Maggio will cross the line for their 8th lap of the stint. Hawken and Dahari will cross the line for lap number 4 of their stint. Craig Parks is on pit road right now, so he'll give up a spot. Cody Kinsey remains as the race leader with Michael Newbraw, Curtis Kelly, and Tony Kivitt to remain out through the top 4. And so we will continue to see these drivers hoping for a yellow flag to fly. Newbraw in the most desperate situation of them all for those in the top 18. We look at Kinsey and Tony Kivitt, 2 guys that have not been in the playoff picture all season long. They're going to look for a race win here from Texas. Francisco, why not elect this strategy? Pray for a yellow as we enter midway.
It sounds like they were listening to Keelan's keys as far as trying to go for some kind of strategy, right, Keelan?
I mean, I told him, hey, start listening to Keelan's keys and we'll get somebody new in victory lane, so maybe people are paying attention.
Well, we'll see what they can do, though, and how long Kinsey decides to stay out on the racetrack. We saw him earlier in this race in a midst of a 3-wide battle. Lots of fun with the likes of Dusty Applin and company, but now in clean air, running through some lap traffic. The Sharpie machine will stay out perhaps another lap. And Michael Newbraw about 2nd and 2/10 down the road with Curtis Kelly about 2.2 seconds beneath Newbraw's Chevrolet. So we watched the battle for the net race lead build up. The gap between 5th and 6th place at about 8/10, and then it's nearly another second before you find Brandon Hawken, and then 4/10 back Gabriel Dahari, who are on the
Crash on the back
freshest set.
straightaway, Cody Kinsey.
Oh no, and the race leader is involved in the accident as the yellow flies.
Mikey Neal.
Michael Newbraw will take the race lead, and our second yellow flies at lap number 60.
Oh no, I saw it on the right side there. It looks like Kinsey got loose just as Mikey Neal was going by on the inside. Both of them made contact on the back straightaway. And when you say that when you're on this strategy, you want a caution, but you don't want to be the caution, that's exactly what happened to race leader Cody Kinsey on this.
So Neal on the fresh tires is moving on by inside of 1 and 2. And Kinsey had already lost the race car prior to that. He just catches Neal with him as he comes back down the banking. And Eric Schaefer with nearly nowhere to go, but he hops on the brakes in enough time to escape the mayhem. And for Kinsey, just praying for the strategy to work out for him. Unfortunately, will find himself with a damaged Chevrolet as he pins it back behind the iRacing official pace car. And he has still scored the race leader, but now is their chance to enter pit road. I just got to wonder how much longer that pit stop will be for Kinsey, and now that he has that right front damage. It isn't enough to take him out of this race, but who knows just how disastrously that damage will affect Kinsey's race as we move forward. It's Kinsey, Kelly, Kivett, your top 4, with Michael Newbraw there in 2nd, and then Lawson Peel, Maggio, Hawken, Dahari from 5th back through 8th. And there come those drivers on pit road.
Most of them pit.
Look at the other half of it. Maggio, Dahari, and Jaden Porter, along with several drivers behind, will hit pit road.
I knew that was going to be an interesting point to pit there, Kenneth, because most of them had gone about 10 laps on their stint, and that's enough to really draw you back into the pit lane. And you saw just Maggio decide to do it, and I think I expect him to take 2 tires here. We know the kind of strategy he likes to use in this situation. Expect those BBR guys to take 2 tires here, get a little bit of freer car, and exit the pit lane. You see a couple other guys maybe do fuel only. That's Newbraw and Moore. Those are not bad strategies for them. You see, they actually take 4 tires, so no 2 tire strategies here for these guys, as you see Maggio exiting ahead of Dahari and Porter. But wow, from this point forward, Kenneth, it does make it a 1-stop, but for everybody, it is still 1 stop. I will say the biggest thing is, can guys like Maggio in this instance, the reason he took 4 tires, and the rest of them probably did, is that since there's only 1 stop remaining, can you take less fuel and maybe right side tires at your green flag pit stop next time by in order to shorten your pit stop time under green flag? Because that could actually be a pretty good strategy to go for.
Well, and if you're Maggio, Porter, and the rest of those guys who just came in right now, Keelan, you're looking at if a potential long green flag run comes their way, those guys will have the advantage because they will inevitably see these front drivers come down pit road, and then when they have to pit next, they will have their freshest set of tires, maybe some distance along with it and some track position, so they will be able potentially to stay out longer and be able to put themselves in a position to win this race. Now, of course, that is barring any yellow flags from here on out, but the kick-in strategy might just start to find itself through with Lawson Peel and Brandon Hawken leading us through to the next restart at lap number 64. Never thought, Keelan, that we would see an alternate strategy like this, especially right after green flag pit stops, but second time might be the charm for those who just hit pit lane.
Yeah, gonna be very interesting to see how this shakes out, because it's gonna be a flip-flop for handful of laps and handful of laps on who's gonna have the advantage on the other. It's just about who's gonna be able to make the time up the best on the fresh tires they are given and when they are given them. So that's really what this is gonna come down to, and we will see how it all shakes out. We see Michael Newbraw up there in 4th. We talked about it. If you are outside the playoffs and you need to gamble, he's doing a great example of it. He has done everything the opposite of what we expected so far today.
Charlie, you've got more with Cody Kinsey, former race leader.
And Carter Kinsey, yes, the former race leader, victim of that last yellow flag, was able to get as much damage as he could to stay on the lead lap. He's going to restart 15th ahead of a lot of wave round cars right behind him.
So Kinsey with that damage falls back in traffic. Newbraw, the benefactor of it all. First time he'll see the daylight from the back end of row number 2. As Lawson, Peel, Brandon Hawken will see the green flag first. Peel is the control car through the restart zone. Lap 64 underway from Texas Motor Speedway. And an onboard look with Steven Maggio sitting back in row number 3.
And we'll see how Newbro hangs on this restart with the old tires. You see him already kind of holding up the bottom in front of AJ Green. Dahari cruises on by on the outside. There's Kyle Benson. AJ Green goes to the bottom of 3 wide. They're 3 wide going into turn 3. Maggio getting the worst of this as he's lost 3 positions rather. Now with Jaden Porter going by on the outside of him.
And Brandon Hawken wastes no time at getting the inside look at Lawson Peel. Swept in 3 and 4. Caution flag is out though before he can make the pass complete. Huge crash off the final corner, and it's Tyler Murray and several others that find themselves in this incident. The other Murray Reedy Motorsports Mustang, Christopher Bishop, is planted right against the outside wall, and that will halt the field again. So kills the bit of fresh tire strategy that Maggio and company employed as of late, and they will have to wait a little longer to find themselves up front.
And Kenneth, sorry, Keelan, but that's going to push this into a must-win for those two now.
So here's a look at what happened.
That was going to be my point. Well, there's the trouble that we see right there. Tyler Murray spinning around, Dusty Applin involved, and Christopher Bishop looked like he got a hard hit right there. Yeah, that was my point, Francisco. These are 2 guys who could not afford a bad race going into the wild card of Daytona next week if they wanted an opportunity to point themselves in, because unless they win these last 2 races together, it's going to make it hard. As you see Mikey Neal got into it, kind of started it. Christopher Bishop almost had it cleared. Looked like maybe a little bit of netcode interference did not help him right there, and just tore up that race car. But couple guys who could not afford a bad race. Even Mikey Neal, he's got a bit of a buffer, but if the damage is too severe and he can't continue or something like that, that advantage could quickly be gone by Daytona. So a lot of guys who could not afford a poor run are going to be in this trouble.
Yeah, Bishop and Murray, the 2 targets that we were looking at, along with Michael Newbraw going into this race, and Austin Reedy. Those are 3 of them on the Murray Reedy Motorsports camp, and Reedy now the only one alive, as Bishop and Murray accrue some toe link damage that should take them out of contention, at least for the lead lap as we see it, as here comes Murray down pit road with a chance to repair his Ford Mustang, which is at this point very ailed given the circumstance. Dusty Applin also on the pit lane, and this is a huge hit, but it does offer some daylight for Newbraw and for Reedy, given the fact that they're seeing the other drivers find trouble. You don't wish negative things upon those guys, specifically if you're Reedy, because those are your teammates, of course, but you find yourself in a better situation to get a better gap to them on the playoff point side of things and give yourself more of a buffer when you get to the cut line and you're nearing where Michael Newbraw is, as Reedy was 16 points back heading into tonight's event.
Yeah, the key with that, Kenneth, is that Newbraw's the one that has the position, so if there's anybody Reedy's hoping to see trouble for, it's the 6 car, and unfortunately it's people he's already ahead of that got into the trouble, so it doesn't necessarily help him in that case either. So he's really racing that 6 car tonight, and Michael Newbraw after that restart is down in 10th, and with the amount of attrition we've already seen at the exact halfway point in this race, the 6 car could still get a pretty decent result here. So unless Austin Reedy were to win the race, then you're looking at a real likely scenario where they go in nearly level on points going into Daytona, which is a toss-up entirely because anything can happen to Austin Reedy, anything can happen to Michael Newbraw, and obviously that's not including someone outside winning the race, because if someone outside the top 15 were to win a race and they're able to qualify into the playoffs with that victory, you can absolutely see that cut line change. We've seen Tyler Murray win at Daytona and super speedways before. Adam Allesire has won at Daytona before. We can see so many drivers that haven't gotten a win that can make it into the playoffs with that win next week that could change this battle completely.
We'll turn it down to Charlie Byer. What do you have?
And a broken left front toe link for Tyler Murray will close the book. on his Texas race, going to put him in a tough spot coming to Daytona to try to get himself a playoff spot. Christopher Bishop and Dusty Applin both also still down there. They will not be restarting with the pack. 23 cars to restart us on lap number 69.
Thank you, Charlie. I mean, the casualty list is growing here from Texas, given the most recent incident. I mean, back there, they're going 3 wide, nearly 4, for all of that track position, and it otherwise doesn't work out for them. For Murray, his night is over. He'll turn his duties to the race control side of things. Bishop is going to have one last gasp at getting through. But to your point, Francisco, we have seen Michael Newbraw and Austin Reedy have shining moments at the super speedways. We know how good DBR can be when they get together. Reedy finished second in our last super speedway race last season with the Xfinity Series cars, finished second to his teammates, so you can only hope for what may happen down the road. Green flag comes back in the air. BBR's Gabriel Dahari gives the shove to Lawson Peel and gets the Exalta Chevrolet clear for the race lead entering turn 1. Hawken with the opportunity to fight back through that middle lane in the second corner. But otherwise, Kyle Benson will find himself down there. Now Dahari wants a bit more. Peek to the outside. Race lead look into turn 3. Now we're 3 abreast.
3 wide. Oh, and Dahari gets tagged by Peel. They both go up the racetrack, and what a save by Hawken and the 72 in that moment to save the race car with the fresh tires. Peel's not done. Here comes Maggio, almost looking 3 wide as the front of the field got stacked up there.
With as wide as the back straightaway got, we did not expect Kyle Benson to send it down the inside 3 wide, and now they're 3 abreast. A couple of rows deep. AJ Green puts himself in the middle of 3 wide. The Skittles car, Jaden Porter down low. Brandon Hawken was on the outside, moves his way to 4th place, and Dahari sees a mirror full of race cars all eyeing him down off the final corner, and here comes Peel to the inside.
Peel's going to challenge him back here. Maybe he'll get some help from Kyle Benson in at 38 as they go down into 1, but he's going to just clear him straight up going into 1 and 2. That's going to put Lawson Peel in the race lead, a guy who has never finished outside the top 10 at this racetrack as they get 3 wide. There goes Benson sliding and on the apron of the racetrack, going to lock it down and stay out of the wall. But all that track position is gone now, as that was hard racing up in the top 5. It's going to take Benson out of it for the time being, just halfway through this thing.
What a save by Benson to keep it straight and off of the inside wall. An unbelievable job by the Pennsylvania native, but now he's back in the midst of the group. We'll have to try and regain himself or pray for another yellow flag to fall in his favor. Dahari sneaks into 3rd. He's got his teammate Maggio to help. 3 BBR cars inside the top 5 with Porter at the back end of it. And now Hawken wants the race lead once more. He looks to the bottom end of 3 and 4. Still off by at least an inch or 2 from the rear bumper of Lawson Peel's Chevrolet. But Francisco, the fighting for the lead non-stop. Now Hawken uses the outside to get a big run off turn 2. Can he get underneath Peel as we go to the back straightaway?
He'll get a run, and he's to the inside of Lawson Peel going into turn 3. They'll once again do battle going side by side through this side of the racetrack. I don't invite the 72 of Dahari to try and get into this battle, and I'm surprised the first tires have not really done anything so far to try and get by these guys. We saw it on the initial restart itself, but so far, the 2 guys that have stayed out on this altered strategy, at least the 2 main ones, have been able to hold position. You look further back, AJ Green has held on in 7th, while the 6th of Michael Newbraw has kind of fallen through down to the 15th position.
As we get a look at our Charlie Bauer photography onboard camera, Dahari with the front row seat, probably getting some popcorn on the way through. As Hawken maintains the bottom on Peel, this fight staying with each other off of the final corner down to the start-finish line to complete lap number 74. And if you're Dahari, are you a little more patient here, knowing you have the freshest set of tires than those 2? He's got 9 better than Lawson Peel, rather Brandon Hawken, and then 13 better than your race leader, Lawson Peel. And now BBR is going to start to make it 2 abreast right where Dahari is. Porter looks to the top side, high skies, and turns 3 and 4. And Austin Reedy, the man needing all of those well-needed points, will be right on the inside for the taking. The field is stacked up, and everyone first through 8th, Keelan Belsha, within half a second back to turn 1.
This is just crazy stuff. When those 2 leaders were side by side, it really stacked everybody up. And now that they kind of put some distance in there, Hawken may be able to pull away.
3 wide.
3 wide off of 2. What a run by Jaden Porter. 4 wide almost as Austin Reedy now takes it to the bottom. He's going to have a steep entry. Going to have to keep it under him as Dahari gets the worst of that entire situation, slipping from 3rd all the way back to 5th or 6th right there as Reedy's going to clear Peel. This racing is crazy, Kenneth.
And Dahari got engulfed in the flames there through the middle of the pack as Porter swept on by. It was almost everyone else going through as well. Peel and Reedy moving on by for 3rd and 4th place. Dahari's not going to give up. He's got his teammate Maggio right behind. And BBR is starting to find some control. They had half of the top 10 finishers last week at Dover Motor Speedway, and that included this batch here. Maggio, Dahari, Jurgensmeyer, and up the road in Jaden Porter. So Francisco, things are getting real fun for the BBR camp. Dahari gets to the back bumper of Reedy's Ford Mustang and makes it toe-to-toe for 3rd right behind Porter.
Right back on the attack is Dahari, not wasting any time after his moment, trying to clear the 34 off the corner, and he's going to slide up in front of him to try and get that push down into turn 3, and sure he won't get challenged, and into the corner he goes. All is good for now. And now that things have kind of settled down here, Kenneth, let's try and get a refresh of what happened on the restart that set us up on this course.
So it begins, try to spread your attention here. So we get 3 wide down the back straightaway. Kyle Benson sends it underneath, and then the aftermath of it on the bottom end of your screen. The slight tag from the outside car gets Benson sideways, but that's really the product of it, Francisco. The move underneath, 3 abreast. Dahari was not expecting it. He got slightly tagged, and it was a wonderful save by both of those race cars to keep themselves in it. Now, Benson is on the opposite side of things. He's back in 17th, but you got to give credit to the absolute effort behind the wheel from both of those guys, making our front battle as exciting as it's been all night long.
Been great racing, and Dahari has started to climb his way back up after slipping back after that big battle. And this top 5, they've been like a top 6, really. It's been like a deck of cards just being shuffled. These guys have been here, there, and everywhere as we see Dahari start to catch up to his Jaden Porter teammate right there in the Skittles machine. And been great racing off these restarts as they start to try to settle down, maybe get a long run going. But Brandon Hawken, he has not been able to pull away in this run as he was a little bit earlier. It'd be a product of those fresh tires behind him getting up to him.
And you got to ask yourself, if Dahari was in the heat of the battle for this entire run off the restart, are his Goodyear Eagles cooked? Are they in a position where he cannot find himself back up to where Hawken is in the race lead? Well, we know how much rubber was worn off from this 98 car through the first green flag strategy pitch, because he had given away the lead to Dahari right before hitting pit lane. So Hawken has to be aware of what he does in the clean air up front, while Jaden Porter hounds him down. This fight definitely far from over. And Jaden Porter going into this race, Francisco, as we mentioned it, with a chance to clinch the regular season title. And by that, he cannot be outscored by 23 points from Kyle Benson, 40 points by Lawson Peel, and 41 from Brandon Hawken. That puts him in a situation where he needs an average race, at least, to clinch the regular season title and add on those extra playoff points entering the postseason. And right now, sitting second, he will not be scored or outscored by 41 points from the race leader because he's right behind him in P2. A phenomenal situation for the Kentucky native to walk into the playoffs with a heap of momentum.
Given the attrition we've had in this race so far, Kenneth, I would go as far as saying that I believe he's almost just about got it locked up right now. He basically just has to finish this race, and he'll have the regular season championship. We'll wait for confirmation on that from Tyler Murray as this race continues to go on. But Porter in a good spot, right on Brandon Hawkins' tail. I think Jaden Porter wants that regular season championship, but he's going to want it also going for the race lead. All this going on as Lawson Pugh is falling back through the top 10. He is all the way down in 10th right now on those older tires. Lawson Pugh might try something alternative here. The pit window is now open with 50 laps to go, and we do have Charlie for a pit report.
And not sure if this is a routine pit stop, but Cody Kinsey, while all the action on the track was happening, pulled down into the pit lane. No noticeable accident then prompted him to even come down pit road, but he's been down here for 2 minutes. It's safe to assume that he'll be down here for a little longer. It could be the close of his book for Texas. Still 22 cars on the racetrack and 2 cars that are 2 laps down.
He may have to sign a check with that Sharpie with all that damage he's got on his Chevrolet. It's a poor ending to Cody Kinsey's night. What started off strong with the strategy call, then the yellow flag comes out, but he happens to be involved in the incident with Mikey Neal, and it appears he has not rejoined the racing surface. So good stuff, Charlie. We'll keep an eye on those guys that are finding themselves on that DNF list, or those who have picked up damage so far tonight. You're watching the battle from 1st through 5th. All of this within 0.5 of a second. They have pulled away from the secondary pack that's building up, starting with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, the rookie from KBueno Racing, stands in front of a group of maybe 3 or 4. Curtis Kelly, Brandon Banks, Alexander Schumacher, who's been running top 10 all night long in his first Texas race, and the 2-time Texas winner in Lawson Peel sitting back in P10. So, Francisco, we're watching the fall off here from Peel. All of that aggressive racing didn't pay off over the course of the run, and neither was the option of staying out, because he's dealing with the worst end of the race car as he falls back to the 10th spot, and Dahari looks for the lead.
And per Tyler Murray just now, if Jaden Porter does not have any incident points in this race, he'll clinch with at least a 13th place finish, and that would be assuming Kyle Benson goes to victory lane with the most laps led with the 22 cars currently running. So the way it's going right now, Kenneth, all that Jaden Porter's looking for is a top 10 finish essentially, and he is your regular season champion for season 7.
And he's in 2nd place right now, so I know he's hungry for a W, but he definitely is in a good spot. He can think to himself he doesn't need to push the issue. Kyle Benson is so far back in track position, and Porter has already had a very good race past halfway. So the regular season champ may be already in his mode as we head into the postseason, striving for his 2nd ever 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series title, something, Keelan, that has never been achieved before. We've gone 7 seasons now as we enter the postseason in 2025, but through the first 6, we have never had a repeat champion. And you think about the competition level in this series as it grows year by year, and you got to think to yourself, maybe at least one season there will be a repeat champion with Lawson Peels of the world or Jaden Porters of the world. Maybe now with, you know, the Morenos and Brandon Hawkins of the world. But we have never seen a repeat title, especially over the last several years. It's always been someone new. So maybe at the front with Jaden Porter, it could be a sign that there is living momentum with the Louisville, Kentucky native. And if he can get a 2nd, he can make 4-wide history.
We have a couple guys up in the top 5 of points who have won races this year who are champions of the past, and that's going to be something to watch. The opportunities open for those guys, but it seems like right when we have a guy who has a shot at the repeat champion, we have a new emerging rookie that just shows his face. A guy like Gabriel Dahari, he's going to have a shot at it next year. And Stephen Maggio, a rookie himself, he has a lot of wins this year. So a lot of guys who are emerging who will be continuous championship threats have really showed their head. And Brandon Hawkins, in his first full complete season, he's going to have something to say about it if Jaden Porter wants to repeat.
You got to watch for Hawkins as we go down to it, because he was the fastest driver to win 10 races in his 4-wide career in history of this series. And as he's in his first full-time opportunity in season 7, he's already eligible for the postseason, so he's going to be in it with flying colors, trying to achieve a title at Homestead, Miami. So it's Dahari, Porter, Hawkins, Reedy, and Maggio, your current sitting top 5 inside 42 laps to go. Now, Francisco, we mentioned the pit road window being open. You said it earlier on a couple of laps ago. Now, how early do you want to pit if you are these front 5? Or are you willing to overcut as long as possible, given the fact that, you know, you have Lawson Peel and several others that will possibly come down sooner?
It's going to be tough to see. We saw that the undercut didn't really gain you all that much time, but we also seen that the tires for the longer run, if you're able to keep them under you, it actually works out better. So the overcut is probably the better strategy, but I think the biggest thing we'll have to see is if there's a caution that comes out. We saw Kinsey get involved in the caution by staying out longer, so it's possibly something to look forward to as a potential strategy call from most of these drivers. But we know that guys like Lawson Peel will have to make their way to the pit lane soon. He's 45 laps on his run. Brandon Hawkins is 41, so he can go a little bit longer than Peel does necessarily. But most of your field is 32, so you probably won't see them for another 15 to 20 laps maximum if they decide to weigh it out that long. But the way I see it, Kenneth, you probably try to split this up as best as you can. Pit somewhere around lap 100, and especially if you're someone like Stephen Maggio, this is a great opportunity to take those right side tires and a little bit less fuel, gain all that time, and have a good handling race car. So not anything is out of the question.
Well, it's been an entirely fun one here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Dahari, the leader. Porter trying to fight hard for second place. We'll take a short moment to step away, but you won't miss any bit of the action of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the Lone Star State and Texas Motor Speedway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
If it's my only shot, I'll take it. It's playing tight, playing tight.
Heard that it was time for you to lay it on the line. Do or die, early sunrise. Doing suicides, you and I versus they squad. The refs and the umpires, we doing nasty. Start a dynasty or an empire. You taking they side, I took the lane or the inside. Driving it to the paint, it's some pain in my eyes. Through the rain, gotta still reign supreme, no surprise. I got no fatigue, you got no defense. I'ma go for 3.
And back live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series is brought to you by iRacing. To get your sim racing career started, get to iRacing.com. By TJ's Team. To learn more about the Foundation's mission to end pediatric cancer, visit morethanacape.org. And by the Victory Lane sponsor, Paul's Setup Shop. Back live from Fort Worth, Texas, there is a look on board with Austin Reed, the man who is chasing down your top spot driver, Gabriel Dahari, who has led the last several as we are under 34 laps to go from Fort Worth, and pit stops are underway to pit road, and we'll kick it off with Charlie Beyer.
And busting the pit cycle window wide open, the first driver down is Lawson Peel, a driver who fell back kind of outside of the top 5, kind of hung there for a little bit during that green flag run, but is going to try to short pitting strategy, make some time on those 4 fresh Goodyear tires that he did make. Also down there is AJ Green to kick this off on lap number 101. So about 33 laps from the finish. We got to get through one more pit stop.
And remember, Dahari and company had pitted under the last yellow flag that was thrown, which means they have to go a little longer, or they can go a little longer on their set of Goodyear Eagles, other than Lawson and the likes of Brandon Hawken, who will most likely be forced to pit at this juncture of the race. And Brandon is on pit road now, Charlie Beyer, or rather, Francisco, as we get down to it. Maggio is also coming down pit road as well, so a very interesting call between those two cars, the Chevrolet and the Toyota, in this time.
And I would expect Maggio here to take 2 tires. That's been his call. We'll see what Hawken decides to do. There you see the right side jacks go up on the 98. The left sides are going to go up for him. There's the right sides on the 51 as Dahari and Reedy work their way in. And there's the right sides for Steven Maggio.
So the 2-tire call comes in again. It looks like it never gives up the bread and butter for Maggio's race car, Keelan. Something that may work out in his favor.
Dahari stopped short.
Dahari will have to take a little more time in his pit box, but that is okay. He's on the right front. The right top of your screen right now is Jaden Porter. Takes away the top spot. Schumacher, Jurgensmeyer, and Benson to the rest of your top 4. We'll keep an eye on when the Chevrolet of Porter comes into pit
penalty
road
for the
this
72.
time.
He's still in his stall.
And Charlie, do you have any more information on Dahari? Looks like possible speeding.
That is indicative of a possible speeding penalty. A lot of guys are going to be as aggressive as possible. Getting into this pit lane, this is the last pit stop, the money stop to get these guys to the end. But based on the time that he's been sitting in there, almost a minute now, brutal mistake for that 72 coming towards the end of this one.
It is a dagger that hits inside 30 laps to go. Dahari had emerged as the favorite to win this race. Charlie, it was your pick, and he was strong, starting from 23rd on the grid, sliding up to the top 5, then taking the top spot away from Hawken, and we almost imagined it would be a secondary duel between those drivers coming down to the end of it on strategy. And Dahari basically has given up the race as Jaden Porter stays out an extra lap. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer will settle back in second. And Kyle Benson, who had fallen so far through track position with the slide off of turn 2, has now ended up in third. So with a caution that may come out, Benson can regain all the track position and some more. Here is Porter down the pit lane. Jurgensmeyer, it appears, will come down as well. So the Ford Mustang finds himself near those yellow cones, and Kyle Benson will elect to keep his Ford Mustang out for another lap. Has to watch out for the fresh tire car in Lawson Peel. But Keelan, this race has been blown wide open with the Dahari speeding penalty.
Sure has. This opens the door for a guy like Lawson Peel, who made that short pit strategy work to be able to make up some time on those fresh tires, and especially opens up the door for Austin Reedy in the 34, who is right behind him as we see Jaden Porter off pit road with no issues. Come back around. Here comes Kyle Benson in the 38 down the pit road. That should get the cycle next to complete. That should be just about everybody.
We'll see if we can get a better look at what happened to Dahari's Chevrolet as he was coming down pit road. I think, Francisco, it's just a case of coming down with a ton of speed, trying to whoa the car up. And Dahari just locked up the right front, trying to get in there. And another penalty down pit road, this time for Kyle Benson, speeding as well.
No. That's more trouble. This is not one of the pit roads you hear get talked about that often as far as trouble getting on and off pit road, but like most amount of half racetracks, you're braking and you're still in the banking, carrying a lot of speed, and the pit line starts pretty early here. So it's hiding a couple drivers out, a couple of big name drivers at that. So we're just going to have to see if they get a break with the caution flag soon. Eric Schaefer's the only car that has yet to bring it down pit road so far. Currently in the race lead, has about 5.5 seconds on Steven Maggio, who's on those two right side tires. From there on back, it's Brandon Hawken and an additional 2 or so seconds behind Maggio on 4 tires, with Austin Reedy about 4 or so seconds behind Maggio. Porter cycles behind Lawson Peel, but Porter has one of the fresher tires of anybody in the top 10 right now.
And now you got to ask, Keelan, is this call worth it for the track position and the time, but with the cost of those older left side Goodyear Eagles? Maggio has employed this strategy so often to the point where we're going to think that late in the race, Maggio is going to cling to a 2-tire call, but do you like it here inside 30 laps to go?
If you can maintain the pace as you're at right now and be able to hang on to this race lead, it's going to work out pretty good, but you wouldn't call that 2-tire strategy if you weren't confident in yourself. So I'm thinking Steven Maggio, he's pretty confident in himself and his abilities because he's made 2 tires work, most notably at Nashville that I can remember. He won that race on 2 tires. So he's made this work in the past. And if you're confident enough in yourself, I like the call. And, you know, it's so hard to bet on yourself, Kenneth. But when you're as good as Steven Maggio is here on iRace and you're trying to even up the score with Brandon Hawken in race wins, I mean, why not? Go for it.
And that's the one guy, Francisco, that he has to worry about right now. Hawken is 2 seconds back from Maggio's Toyota Camry. So as we see it, it will get very close as Hawken is putting in similar lap times, if not faster lap times, than Maggio's Toyota for KBueno Racing. And here may be the deciding pass for the race lead. Schaefer has yet to visit pit road, and Maggio on the fresh tires blows by the Chevrolet like he's standing still. So Schaefer still has to pit. Maggio now in control with 23 laps remaining.
And Brandon Hawken is slowly closing in that gap. He's about a second behind the 51. Not sure if Maggio's trying to save whatever tire he can in this situation to try and extend the life. You know, he's on 2 tires, which in this case should free the car up a little bit to try and help him out in this long run. It was struggling for most of this race with the handling of his racecraft. The 2 tires could actually put him in a better situation. But we'll just have to see as it plays out. He's got about a second and a half to Brandon Hawkins. Eric Schaefer's now made his way down the pit lane, completing the pit cycle. And how about through the field, starting with your Kenneth Bueno?
And we start with the race leader. Steven Maggio has won 4 races over his short and very successful 4-wide racing TJ's team career. And winning his last race at Nashville came with a strategy call that got him out front late in the going. He patrolled the field from there on out, and after seeing Hawkins take his 5th win of the season at Dover last week, given all the issues that Maggio had to deal with, a non-force feedback racing wheel and a shifter with some keyboard number pad that he had to use last week, he's on the right track right now with a 2-tire strategy that may get him his 5th career 4-wide dub. He's got 5 laps led tonight with 20 laps to go.
Brandon Hawkins runs in P2, and it's been a great race once again for the driver of the 98, the driver with the most laps led in the entire 4-wide season, trying to see if he can run down Steven Maggio in the closing 20 laps of this race to try his best to win his 6th race of the season. Nobody's won 6 races in a season since Lawson Peel back in season number 5. Hawkins trying to see if he can cement himself as the only driver in second on the all-time wins list here from the track he won at last season.
Austin Reedy back in a 3rd position has tried to put together a great season as the season progresses. He started off with a couple shaky races at Daytona Auto Club and had himself in the battle for the cut line. He came into today's race 16 below the cut line with a good opportunity to put together a good race. So far he's done that. After starting out back after an EOL penalty, he has driven his way all the way up to 3rd here in the closing laps, trying to make that Flow Racing car stay up front. Austin Reedy sits in 3rd.
The Skittles car in 4th, Jaden Porter, Pocono winner and Darlington, 2 wins on the season and looking to clinch the regular season championship. Currently running in the 4th position and in a great spot to wrap this title up to cap off a really stellar regular season for him and KBueno Racing. Currently in 4th, highest 1st, and the 3rd highest average finish out of all the cars on the racetrack currently.
From a first glance, Curtis Kelly's situation going into tonight's race from Texas is very positive. A very solid buffer in point standings in the top 10 and basically secured into the 4-wide racing playoffs should there be no mistakes from here on out. But after a couple of shaky weeks through COTA and through Dover, 2 intentional wreck penalties given to him over the last several races, Tyler Murray has given him a warning saying if you find yourself in an intentional wreck situation again, you are done for the season. So Kelly is almost hanging on by a thread, but has regained consciousness and confidence in tonight's race, running inside the top 5 and looking for a solid rebound to get into the playoffs with a heap of assuredness and some confidence down the lane.
Your all-time wins leader, Lawson Peel, right now running in P6. Has not been too great of a race for the 12 car. It's just not really had that little bit more that the 98 or even the 72 or 51 has had all this race. Right now running in the 6th position. Having a solid evening here from the Texas Motor Speedway. Trying to see if he can wrap it up with a decent enough finish. Battling for 2nd place in the regular season championship, which won't give him any playoff points. But if he can finish 2nd to Jaden Porter, that's some confidence, something he can take going into the playoffs. Lawson Peel trying to do the best that he can to get himself in a good spot to try and go for title number 2.
Back in the 7th position is Myrtle Beach's Brandon Banks, and when you think of 4-wide veterans, you think of Brandon Banks, a guy who always seems to be up front at the end of Superspeedway, sits in 7th here at Texas in his 5th season of action in a 4-wide racing TJ's Team Series. He's been on the sim rig since the year of 2000, so it's been several decades of experience in sim racing, sitting in 7th and trying to make it 3 top 10s of the last 4 races. He's been bouncing around that cut line for several weeks in a row. He finally got himself above it in a good gap as the caution comes out. Brandon Banks sits in 7th.
And there was a spinner into turn number 3. And we saw somebody up the racetrack with some problems. And the yellow flies may have been Craig Lounslager, but we'll keep an eye on what exactly happened. Yellow flies with 14 laps to go. And it is Dahari. You're right, Francisco, in the most trouble going into turn 3. And it's Eric Schaefer that chips him down the lane. He overcorrects it hard into the outside wall. Oh, no.
Schaefer had more recently been down pit road, so he was on fresher tires compared to most of the field, and I think he misjudged how he was going to enter the corner compared to the 72 and just kind of barely taps him in his right rear, and that sends him off. Watch this. Just barely gets into his right rear. I don't think he was expecting or trying to do anything like that. Just the big difference on the tires, and that is going to put him in a terrible situation. And Gabriel Dahari has had great runs in all of his four-wide races. It's right now sitting backwards in his pit stall, likely out of this race.
I think tonight may be the first DNF for Dahari's career. I mean, look how impressive it's been since he started his four-wide season at Iowa with the win, and he's had very good finishes, but it appears tonight the negative side of it comes out, and the Storms have approached Dahari land. He goes hard into the wall, and his race is over. So Schaefer gets into him on the fresh tires, and that leaves the field with a decision to make on pit road. Charlie Beyer, everyone and their mom is in this time.
It's a big decision that these guys are going to make. Who's going to take 2 tires? Who's going to take 4 tires? And who is going to take no tires at all? Steven Maggio, the king of 2-tire strategies, as we mentioned before, and a lot of guys behind him trying to get as much track position as possible come this restart with going to be 10 laps to go when they take it. All the cars in, and jacks are coming up.
Remember, there was a 2-tire call from Maggio, but it may not be like that this time around. There's enough time for there to be a 4-tire call there, but there's a 2-tire stop from Hawken. Does he beat Maggio off of pit road? He does not. A wonderful battle coming down to the stretch, and Maggio on a 9.9-second stop is confident in a 2-tire decision, and so is everyone else in the top 5.
I was worried there, Kenneth. I thought there may have been a handicap for Maggio coming down pit road because he already took 2 tires on the most recent stop. I felt like a caution would really mess with it and maybe create the opportunity for Hawken to take 2 and Maggio would be forced to take 4. But this entire top 4 are going to come off with 2 tires, and that's going to make it really interesting. First car on 4 fresh tires will be back there in the 5th position. It was a fast stop for all of these guys, though.
Everyone lifted up the right side of the race car, and Francisco, there's the look. Photo finish.
Yeah, just as they're accelerating here, there you see Maggio, Porter, Reedy, Hawken, all of them going. There's the second white line, and that's the difference between Maggio and Hawken, and even closer right there between Porter and Hawken for P2. And that's going to actually play a huge role on the way we restart this race. Kenneth, because that means that Steven Maggio, who decides to take the inside lane, will have Jaden Porter behind him. He's in the same voice chat as Jaden Porter, so he can have Porter get a little bit of a help here for the restart itself and try to clear Porter for second, trying to catch Brandon Hawken off guard, and that'll really help both of their chances to try and win the race. Certainly give them better control, as we have a pit report from Charlie Beyer.
And just to recap what all transpired on there on pit road, the top 6 cars from Steven Maggio all the way to Trevor Haley on 2 tires. Lawson Peel will start the field in 7th position on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. And guys, the first 2, what made that race so close was the fact that the first 2 cars on the racetrack, Steven Maggio and Brandon Hawken, 9.8 seconds on their pit stop. The rest of those cars who took 2 tires, 9.5 or faster. So that's what made for a close race, and it's going to set up for a close finish here, guys.
This is going to be fun. Thank you, Charlie, as we settle into this restart with 10 laps to go. We were nearing a lead battle between Maggio and Hawken because the 98 car had been catching up 10th by 10th. And as we were going through the field, we kept an eye keenly on what was going down between Maggio and Hawken's pace. Now they're leveled on 2 fresh Goodyear Eagles each with a restart inside 10 to go and a teammates in Jaden Porter to add some brotherly love to the 4-time winner this season in Maggio. Through the restart zone, Maggio will count down Jaden Porter, and we will go back to green flag racing. Michael Newbraw takes a trip through the grass. I believe we will stay green back to turn 1. But Maggio has the advantage, and Porter takes away second.
And for the likes of Michael Newbraw, that's not going to help his situation against Austin Reedy, especially with Austin Reedy in the top 5. You see Porter going to the outside trying to challenge for the lead. Hawken staying in 3rd, and there's Jurgensmeyer going for 4th.
Jurgensmeyer underneath Austin Reedy, but this battle for the lead could help Hawken string his way back into this thing. Remember, this is also for the Final 4 bracket challenge round going into Daytona.
3 wide.
3 wide for the lead as Hawken goes under.
Oh, and there's almost contact between the top 2, Keelan.
Hawken to the bottom. They're going to stay 3 wide off of turn 2. Porter in the fence. And that's going to create the opportunity to pull away for the 2 on the bottom. Here comes Austin Reedy to the aid of Brandon Hawken. Jurgensmeyer back there. They might get it back down to
And
2
there's still
here.
3.
Porter's going to stick it on the top. They're going to stay 3. Austin Reedy may have an opportunity to maybe make it 4 going into turn number 1. Hawken almost got clear, and this is crazy stuff. Hawken may have them both clear off of 2.
And Porter's loose. He tries to save it right in front of Lawson Peel. They're still 3 abreast off of turn 2. And Austin Reedy, who came into this night 16 points beneath the playoff picture cut line, is looking for a March miracle. It'll be 7 laps to go, and Maggio is right on Hawkins' tail to the stripe, back to turn 1.
Yeah, and Austin Reedy was the one who pushed Brandon Hawken clear of the group. They were 3 wide, unable to go anywhere, and the 34 gave the assistance to the 98, got him clear of Steven Maggio, and that's probably all Brandon Hawken needed was the clean air to try and pull away, because the 51 unable to catch him, and now Austin Reedy's trying to see if he could take away second.
And Austin will have a wonderful night as long as he stays here. Remember, the mirror image of Pocono Raceway, wanting second in the final corner and threw it all away by sending it into the turn to crash the field. Now he's got a shot to stay where he's at or look for more on Maggio. Remember, all 4 of these guys, on 3 of them with the same strategy and 1 in Lawson Peel with 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. He'll look to the bottom of Reedy and negate his call, but it's still about 1 to 2 tenths between Hawken and Maggio entering the final 5. Keelan, does Maggio have anything left and any alternate strategy to get Hawken through?
If he has anything, he just cannot let Hawken do what Hawken did in the early stages of the race as he takes a peek to the inside. Don't think he's going to quite get there. He cannot let Hawken pull away, and he's doing a good job of that, keeping the pressure on the 98. Make sure he knows that you are there. He's got to stay there. If he can get close enough, maybe get to the inside, might be able to kind of get him arrow loose and get him side by side and side draft it from there. But as it stands right now, he's going to need some help maybe from those cars behind him. He's got to keep the pressure on him, though. Hawken has yet to really been able to pull away in this battle. There's 4 laps to go.
And Maggio's got to watch for Austin Reedy because any unleashed move by the Delaware native could solidify this race for good. But I think Reedy has more to worry about with Lawson Peel on the 4 fresh tires right behind him. Now Reedy once more. He'll look for second, entering turn 3, and he may deal the bumper to Maggio's Toyota. He does slightly, so it gets Reedy potentially right under. He's in this sandwich, and he saves it off turn 4. 3 to go.
That's probably going to hand it to Hawken here. He got aggressive trying to go for second. And that's going to buy Brandon Hawken 4/10 of a second. That's probably going to be the difference. Lawson Peel probably doesn't have enough time to get up there and do something with these. He drives to the inside of Maggio. He's going to try the side draft. Here comes Curtis Kelly to try and get some help.
And Spinner right behind. Alexander Schumacher got hit into the outside wall. And we're going to stay green as we come to 2 laps to go. But the Michigan native was having a great race inside the top 10. We'll have it be killed in these final several laps. Peel is underneath Maggio for P2, and just like Francisco said, Keelan, that may be all she wrote if we don't have another yellow.
Exactly what Hawkins wants to see is these 2 guys side by side for the second position. Kelly and Reedy also battling it out there, but Brandon Hawken, what a statement he can make now as he comes to the white flag. Can he make it 3 in a row? 2 of them here in this state of Texas. White flag in the air.
Final lap from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, and the fight continues for P2 between Peel and Maggio. Austin Reedy and Curtis Kelly now going at it for 4th. Reedy will have an amazing points night, but what a run by the Canadian in Hawken, chasing down Maggio in the final run, and through these last several laps will put himself in 4-wide history. He will confirm 2nd on the all-time wins list ahead of Colin Forrester, and for the 6th time this season, Brandon Hawken is a race winner.
And make it a hat trick. 3 in a row for Brandon Hawken and the 4-wide Racing TJ's Team Series. That is not something we have seen in this series for a really, really long time, Kenneth. I think the last time you have to go from someone who accomplished that feat was the very driver he passed on the all-time wins list today, Colin Forrester, in his debut 3 races. Of course, getting all 3 of those victories. And now it's Brandon Hawken doing that for the first time in nearly 4 seasons. What an impressive drive by Brandon Hawken. What an impressive final run to the checkered flag, racing against the KBueno Racing drivers. And this is your Paul Set of Shop's victory moment.
He had to earn this one, guys. I mean, this isn't like one of the ones that we've seen earlier this year where he could just sit up front and it kind of got handed to him by all the cautions. He had to really work for this one. He had to make the pass for the lead several times, and he was clutch when it mattered. He kept his car up front, made the 2 tires work. I think this is a great win for Brandon Hawken. This really shows how good of a driver he is and how respectful of a driver he is, too. I love watching him race because rarely do you see such a good race for the win, and he does it several times.
He is slapping history in the face, and he's putting his name on the record books in 4-wide history through his short career, and he's the first man to have more than 5 wins in a season since Lawson Peel did it a couple of seasons back with this next-gen car en route to a championship. He won 7 races in his championship journey, and now Hawken is putting himself in that position where he is the favorite heading into the postseason and doesn't even have to worry about what happens at Daytona. He will be there for the taking. He has the most playoff points, and with 11 career victories, he is alluding to everyone else that he is the man that will possibly conquer 4-wide in 2025. He'll park it on the start-finish line. Another win for Brandon Hawken, 3rd time in a row. And he's got a knack for winning here in this 4-wide series. 2nd consecutive as well here from Texas as we come down to it. The final laps belong to Brandon Hawken. The win does as well. And for the 6th time in this Season 7 campaign, Hawken is the winner. Lawson Peel falls short, 6/10 back to 2nd place in the hard-fought battle with Steven Maggio. All 3 of them made very good calls to set themselves up for the end of this race. 2 tires for Hawken and Maggio, 4 for Lawson Peel. We'll talk to all 3 of them before we wrap up our coverage tonight. And then you go down the list, and the storylines get better, Francisco. Curtis Kelly, after the shaky several weeks, has finally come back with a great finish in 4th. Austin Reedy desperately needed this one to go his way, and he ends up with the top 5. Jaden Porter walks away with 6th place, and that should clinch him the regular season title. How about Kyle Benson with the struggles that he faced earlier on by half spinning and nearly getting into the wall on the back straightaway, recovers for 7th. Brandon Banks has another 8th place finish and should keep him above the cut line. Trevor Haley in 9th, and AJ Green wraps up tonight's top 10.
11th is going to Nicholas Bauman in the number 14. Craig Lautenswalker finished in the 12th position. Timothy Cook with a solid 13th place effort, and as well for Tony Kivet in the 14th spot. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer ran in the top 10 for most of the race. Will finish in the 15th spot with Michael Newbraw down in 16th. It's going to be a real tight battle going into Daytona with Austin Reedy most likely single digit or nearly level on points. Those 2 will be at the biggest wild card track on the schedule. Craig Parks in the 17 will finish in 17th with Alex Schumacher making a return to the league for the first time in a while, finishing in the 18th spot. Eric Schaefer will be the last car on the lead lap in 19th, and Daniel Moore rounding out your top 20.
Back in the 21st position was Mikey Neal, who got involved in that yellow a little bit earlier. Good recovery for him. Gabriel Tahari back in 22nd. Unfortunate how his race came to an end this evening. Ran up front, led laps, and could have gave Hawken a run for his money. Cody Kinsey sits back there in the 23rd position after getting involved with the incident with Tyler Murray and Christopher Bishop, who finished 24th and 25th. Those are 2 guys who needed a good point stay just outside the cut line, and talk about it a little bit later how this one has affected them as they go into Daytona. But those are 2 guys and a team who are really fast at Daytona, so they're going to have an opportunity to win and put themselves in. Dusty Apley, the rookie, finishes back there in the 26th position. Eric Stewart in 27th. Brandon Gillis, Kevin Aaliyah, and Tristan Bailey round out the field.
That's your entire look at the field from Texas Motor Speedway, and boy, did we have a fun one. Conversations with your top 3 and more post-race coverage on the other side. You're tuned in to race number 20 of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Texas Motor Speedway. Brandon Hawken, the race winner. We'll talk to him on the other side.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
If it's my only shot, I'll take it. It's playing tight, playing tight.
I heard that it was time for you to lay it on the line. Do or die, early sunrise. Doing suicides, you and I versus they squad. The refs and the umpires, we do 'em nasty. Start a dynasty or an empire. You taking they side, I took the lane or the inside. Driving it to the paint, it's some pain in my eyes. Through the rain, gotta still reign supreme, no surprise. I got no fatigue, you got no defense. I'ma go for 3.
Let's go. What's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How's it going, man? How are you? Good. How you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini, I have a hoagie, I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app.
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa. Welcome back to Texas Motor Speedway, an electric race we had over 134. And for the 6th time this season, we are joined by Brandon Hawken, who enters Paul's Setup Shop Victory Lane once more. Brandon, I don't know what else there is to describe this season other than flat-out dominance, but you had to work for this one in these final few. You and Steven Maggio on the 2-tire call, heading all the way down to the end, and with a fast car all night long, we knew you would be in contention, but you get it done in great fashion. What does this one feel like as you get more momentum heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, one feels good. That was a heck of a race there on the last. Well, the entire race basically. There was lots of difference with the tire wear, lots of strategies, and comers and goers, and then like an all-out race there to the finish. So man, I can't be more happy with that. That was a lot of fun, and man, absolute brawl there towards the end. I got to thank Austin there for choosing me to give the bump draft to there when we were 3 wide with Steven and Jaden, and man, yeah, I was on that final stop. I was hoping I could catch up to Steven. He was holding his own really well on the 2 tires, and wasn't sure if I was gonna have enough time, but I was gaining, and Austin behind me, he was faster than I was, so I think we would have had a 3-car race there, and then the yellow came out, and then all bets were off. We just came in. I think Lawson took 4, and he was really fast there at the end, and I was just focused on the two cars ahead of me there, and I was able to make a really quick move there to the inside once they got side by side in 3 and 4, and it was just just able to hold on. And man, that was so much fun. So man, yeah, great job from everybody, having a great clean race there to the finish. And yeah, I'm really happy with that one. That was a really fun race.
You know, over the last several weeks from Coda and Dover, I noted mostly the level of respect that the entirety of the field has for you, and I'm sure it's the same from your end to them as well. What's so special about racing with this specific group of guys and the experiences that you've had along your second season of four-wide action in your first full time?
Yeah, like of course, like everybody, we all get into it at some point or another, but like everybody's like super nice, and we race extremely hard, but give each other enough room. And yeah, like I have the utmost respect for everybody here. It's some really great racing here. So yeah, just it's really nice to be able to race with guys they'll give you no more room than you need, but they give you that like that inch. And it's just a ton of fun to race side by side with these guys, and particularly at tracks that they're gets a little bit loose, when there's low grip. It really helps these next gen cars. And it yeah, really allows for some really awesome racing. So yeah, just yeah, throughout last 2 seasons, I've had so much fun. And yeah, I hope everybody else has had a lot of fun as well. Like nights like these are what we sim race for. It's just so much fun going wheel to wheel with these guys, and the respect is great. And yeah, just have a lot of fun.
You're putting yourself in a league company right now. 3 in a row, 6 wins in this season 7 campaign. I'm sure that Daytona's not even on the radar, because for right now, you've got the upper hand when we go playoff racing at Auto Club in a couple of weeks' time. How much confidence is there for you and your camp as you guys head into the postseason in your strive for your first four-wide title?
Yeah, well, I'll give it everything at Daytona. Of course, it's a little bit of wild card, but we had a good race there at Talladega, and so hopefully the same goes for Daytona. But you never know. So yeah, I'm just gonna go into Daytona looking to have fun, work with my teammates, and see if we can get another really good result for myself or for the team, or and then. Yeah, and then Auto Club, that'll be the one where you're like, okay, fun's over, time to get back to business. And yeah, Auto Club is gonna be a lot of fun with this car. It's it's fun with like every car. So many lanes to run. Think with this car that the high line's a little bit more dominant, but you can really like throw it down the inside, make some moves. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. And yeah, just it's gonna be good. So yeah, looking forward to that. And yeah, we'll see how it goes at Auto Club.
Well, now we're just watching to see if there's 4 in a row, maybe 5 in a row. I don't know if we're gonna go LeBron James and not 5, not 6, not 7 on the cards right now. But you're lighting up the field, and you've got 3 wins in a row from tonight here at Texas Motor Speedway. Before we let you go on your 6th dub of the year, anybody you want to thank in part of that for tonight?
Yeah, just like thank all you guys on the broadcast, everybody at Four Wide for the show every week. And Lawson, Steven, Curtis, Austin, like all these guys. That was a really great race there to the end. And Steven, and it's. Yeah, man. Looking forward to next week. Of course, watch Prodigy Racing League on MAV TV every Sunday at 9 Eastern. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next race.
Well, it's going to be fun to see you on the Prodigy Racing side of things, and going to be fun when we take on Daytona in just 1 week time on April 2nd. Brandon, congratulations on the dub. Much appreciated the time as always, and best of luck as you guys head to the regular season finale. You're coming in with 6 wins, maybe 7 if we go next week. Congrats on the dub.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Brandon Hawking captures win number 6 of the season, win number 11 of his 4-wide career, and like we've said, now passes Colin Forrester for second on the all-time wins list. We'll join with Lawson Peel and Francisco Bacalhau. Peel takes away second here from Texas.
From second and the all-time wins leader to the all-time wins leader here, Lawson Peel, a second place finish for you tonight here at Texas. Looked like you didn't quite have enough to challenge the 98 or even the 34 on those longer runs, Lawson, but what more did you need to try and come away with a one spot better?
I don't know. Maybe if I would have gotten one more green white checker there at the end and it all would have gone my way,
maybe I would have had a chance, but that short run kind of improved my finishing position for sure. Just wasn't very good on the long run, and was kind of experimenting with what gear I wanted to run, and the track temp was hot there for a while, and all of that stuff, and tried to push and keep up with Hawking here and there, and that one time I just fell way back after that. So yeah, it seems like some of these tracks we go to, I'm either pretty darn good on the long run, or I just really don't have it. So hopefully we can get to a track here coming up where I'm good on the long run again.
Well, next week is Daytona to end the regular season, so while Jaden Porter has locked up the regular season championship, you still are trying to race for another race win. So what's the mentality going into Daytona? Are you going to try and get to the end of the race, or you're going to play it as aggressively as possible?
Yeah, we'll take a look at the points and see, who on my team is close on the cut line and who needs to have a good night, and kind of all those scenarios. And I'll definitely try to do what I can to, help my teammates out. That's kind of what I enjoy doing. I like team racing as a unit at those super speedways. So be looking forward to that. And in the playoffs, obviously, congrats to Hawken on another win. He was great all night. Great drift there through 1 and 2 after the checkered flag also. So, but yeah, good finish. Happy to kind of drive back up through those guys, those last 10 after that restart. That was kind of fun. So, otherwise would have finished probably 6th or 7th, right around there. So probably shook out a little better than what it should have been for me tonight.
Well, I appreciate that, Lawson. Before we let you go, give the shout outs to everybody that helps make this happen for you and your 12 team.
Yeah, as usual, all you guys up at the KBueno Racing Network, and appreciate everything you guys do for us. Tyler Murray for everything he does as well. Thanks to TJ's team for sponsoring the league. Really appreciate them for helping us out as well. All my Drinking Bros teammates, everybody, all set up shop, and again, everybody that watches and supports the league. And again, enjoyed racing with my competitors and all my friends out here on track tonight. So good race to everybody.
We appreciate the time you take with us every week, Lawson, and we hope to see you out there at Daytona for the regular season finale. So congrats on the strong effort here tonight. We hope to see you then.
Yep. See you guys soon.
As Lawson Peel gets second here from Texas, the two-time Fort Worth, Texas winner ends up as the second driver in. Some good points out of tonight. The man who lost it on the strategy was up front at the end was BBR Steven Maggio, who joins Keelan Belcher right now in the broadcast booth.
Well, Steven, good to see you up here, finishing in the third position this evening. I know that caution probably wasn't what you were looking for. You took that two-tire gamble, and you were holding your own pretty well. Had a few more laps to hang on, and then the caution comes out and just couldn't hold him off. So how was the run today, and how happy are you with the third-place finish?
I'm happy with the third place finish, to be honest. And I hate saying that because I don't like to be happy with not winning, but I did not have a winning car tonight. And I actually was kind of happy that that caution came out because it gave me a chance at least. I was starting to really hurt on that long run, and they were catching me pretty quickly. I honestly feel like that was the winning strategy because I had saved fuel under caution. I saved fuel during the first run, so I only had to take one can. And then I came out really far ahead, and I just didn't have the speed. I was really, really slow today. And Gabriel was actually on the same strategy as me and sped on pit road. And I think if he doesn't speed, he would have won the race because he had the speed and the correct strategy. But I will take third because I think I was like a 5th or 6th place car tonight.
That's for sure. And even though your teammate, Jaden Porter, he clinches a regular season title, you do advance in the big bracket challenge. So it'll be you versus Kyle Benson next week for a few additional playoff points. So Daytona, it's such a wild card, but you're already good in the playoffs. What's your strategy for Daytona? You just out there to have some fun before we go into the playoffs?
Yeah, probably try to have some fun. Make sure I don't make any more enemies, or any enemies. Hopefully I don't have any right now. And yeah, that was a fun battle I had with him and Hawken. I kind of felt bad that I washed him up the track a little bit. This track was so foreign to me. I'd run like 20 laps here before the race. That was like the extent of my knowledge of this track. So everything was a learning experience today. And I was not as low as I thought I was, and kind of washed him a little bit. So apologies to him for that. But that was a fun battle, and just couldn't hold Hawken off, and then couldn't hold Lawson off after that either. So yeah, next week will just be a fun race, I think. Just try to work with the teammates and see what we can do.
Well, a good run for you tonight. Put yourself on the podium. You got anybody you want to thank for putting together this good run?
Yeah, I think my team BBR, you got I guess KBueno Racing. So we got Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacayo, and then my teammates Jaden, Gabriel, Mikey Neal is like an affiliate, Shui, Jurg. I was fun racing Hawken. You guys in the booth. I think that's it.
Well, we appreciate you joining us.
Belshaw, of course, too. My favorite.
Yeah, I was worried you'd forget about me for a second. I wasn't going to say nothing.
That was a good save.
Well, we do appreciate you, and we appreciate you coming up and joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Daytona for the regular season finale. Maybe you can win that big bracket challenge.
Yeah, we'll see. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
And that's Steven Maggio, who walks away with third tonight. And knowing that he's moving on in the Big Bracket Challenge means he's got something to fight for when we go to Daytona next week on April 2nd. Let's turn now to Jaden Porter, who in this race comes home sixth. But Jaden, officially now, you are the regular season champion. So you get 5 bonus points added to the tally for the regular season title. How much does that mean for you confidence-wise and momentum-wise as you head into the postseason?
It means a lot. Wish we could have got an extra 2 with that race win there at the end, but extra 5 playoff points is big because now I can kind of have a little bit of a buffer if something goes wrong in one of these races in these rounds, especially the first round. Kind of 2 super speedways with this car, so having any sort of buffer is going to be pretty big for the first round, I'd say. But you can't. I mean, this whole regular season for me has probably been the best regular season I ran in a league at all. I've never been really this consistent. 10 top 5s and 14 top 10s is really good. So hopefully we can continue in the playoffs.
We've been on fire points-wise, and you've held on to that tally. And now you guys head on to Daytona, a race that, for many, you won't be as serious because, for you guys, you're locked into the playoffs without any worry. Your teammate, Steven Maggio, is going after the Big Bracket Challenge win against Kyle Benson. What kind of strategy do you employ as we head to the Super Speedway right before Auto Club comes around for the playoffs?
I'm just going to send it, honestly, and just try to win. Try to lead every lap. I don't really, if I wreck, it doesn't really matter. I don't lose any points or any spots in points, so really just try to go win and get 2 extra playoff points with the race win.
Well, Jaden, we move on to Daytona now, regular season title in hand, and now it'll give you some added momentum heading into Auto Club Speedway. Before we let you go, Jaden, on this regular season championship tonight from Texas, anybody that you want to thank in part to get you there?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone at KBueno Racing, Splash and Go Graphics for making this paint scheme. My brother and his friends for watching, you guys for doing the broadcast, and yeah, that's about it.
Well, Jaden, we really appreciate the time. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the 6th place finish and the regular season title. We'll see you in the rest of the field at Daytona. That should be a lot of fun.
All right, thank you.
So Jaden Porter walks away with 6th, and he has the regular season title in hand. And you know what? From what the drivers are talking about, given the way this next-gen car handles and the runs that we had with the hot track temperature, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that Tyler missed the setup part of it and put on the old Texas setup because it still provided a great race. So props to Tyler. Even though he put on a different setup, it still provided some great stuff, and the drivers definitely showed that. Now, let's get a look at the full playoff picture post tonight. This is the spreadsheet that Tyler Murray helps us with every single week to give us a better perspective of what the playoff picture looks like week in and week out. So another big props to the league owner Tyler Murray for helping us with our championship and playoff clinching scenarios. And as we see it, basically the first 9 are locked in theoretically to the playoffs as we head into the World Center of Racing. That battle for the cut line now at about 5 points. Despite Reedy's 5th place finish, Michael Newbraw held on for a top 20. That means that Newbraw still has the upper hand for 15th, and that battle will come down to the very wire, Francisco. This one is going to be as exciting as it gets, and it may end up being decided by the last lap at Daytona next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Still, anything can happen in the final race at Daytona. It's just such a wild card of a racetrack, but also just very importantly there, you see on the bottom, Craig Parks. Remember from Craig Parks on down, that has the number of starts, that has the range to be inside the top 30 in points. If they win a race, Kenneth, it will shift everybody down one position. That'll automatically put AJ Green as the last one in, and he's only 5 points behind Brandon Banks, so that could easily shift around the gap and who you're racing in. So I think if you're everybody that has that pink locked in icon all the way down to Eric Schaefer, then you are safe. You don't have to even think about anything. If you're Mikey Neal, Trevor Haley, Nicholas Bauman, you do not want to wreck out early in the race. You don't want to put yourself in that critical of a situation to where you have to start thinking, okay, what's my situation? What's the points? What's this? What's that? That's not going to be beneficial to their playoff hopes if they get into some kind of early trouble. So if you're the 88, the 4, the 14, then you're most likely going to take Daytona with a bit of precaution and try to see if you can survive the race and try to be there at the end, because that could put you in a good enough spot. And then if you're Michael Newbraw, Austin Reedy, and AJ Green, you're basically racing one another. A lot of your strategy is going to depend on what the other one does, especially Newbraw and Reedy being the closest battle and the existing current battle, since no one else has the win to try and get that push them down in one. But it's going to be interesting if someone does win, because they'll have to basically be and keep that in the back of their minds that someone can win. So to keep an eye out for the 48 and the 5 as Daytona progresses.
And that leaves us with one, Keelan.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that, Francisco, that the guys who aren't even on the screenshot right here are guys who we will have to take a look at, like Tyler Murray going in there. He's run up front at Daytona before. He was really close in the season opener at the beginning of the season, got involved in the incident on the final lap. That's somebody we got to keep our eye on. Tony Kivitt, who's out there, he sat on pole and he led several laps at the season opener at Daytona. It's such a wild card race, and I feel like the most dangerous guys in this field are guys who aren't even on the screenshot because they have everything to lose or nothing to lose and everything to gain. So it's going to be such a wild card of a race. Daytona, it's so crazy, and the fact it's a regular season finale, it's going to be something to keep our eyes on. And you may be in the field, Francisco, so we might not even have your extra eyes up here.
It's going to be fun. We'll see how come race day if I'm up for it, if I'm ready for some super speedway racing. I ran the Daytona race late in the regular season once before, and I believe AJ Green went to victory lane, and I was able to come away with a 6th place finish. That race was not broadcasted. I believe Kenneth Bueno had something he had to attend to on that evening, but I had a good time participating in that race to take advantage of the opportunity. So if I am on the racetrack again, I'm going to try to work with Jaden Porton, my other BBR teammates, and hopefully try to end the winless streak I'm on.
Well, one thing is for certain, the last 3 Daytona winners have been all different. Adam Alshire, Kyle Benson, and Steven Stemping. The last time we had a repeat Daytona winner, it was back in Season 5 with Colin Forrester, who swept the World Center of Racing from the beginning all the way to that playoff race, or near regular season ending race at the World Center of Racing in Daytona Beach, Florida. So if anything tells you anything, it means that things will be all up in the air. The playoff fight within 5 points for the cut line, and that means things are going to be really exciting when we turn to you next April 2nd. That'll be April 2nd on a Wednesday. That'll be at 8:40 p.m. Eastern for the pre-race coverage sponsored by Dropping the Hammer, and then our race coverage begins at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. Once again, April 2nd. You will not want to miss that regular season finale. We've got a special one cooked up for you. April 2nd, 8:40 p.m. Eastern for the Dropping the Hammer pre-race show, 9:10 for the race coverage with myself, Francisco Bacchiao, Keelan Belsha, and Charlie Byer with you at all times. But that'll do it for us from Texas Motor Speedway, and for the 6th time this season, it is Brandon Hawken taking the W as we head into Daytona. For Tyler Murray and the entire admin council at 4 Wide Racing for making this league all happen, and for everyone at the KBueno Racing Network, that includes our fantastic crew on the broadcast tonight. For our pit road reporter, Charlie Byer, for Francisco Bacchiao and Keelan Belsha in the broadcast booth, I'm Kenneth Bueno, waving so long from Fort Worth, Texas. We head down south to Daytona Beach to decide the 15 that will make it to the Season 7 4 Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs. We'll see you there.